Memorize.
Good morning. Welcome back to the June 19th through 20th, 2025 board meeting. My name is Sung Oh, president of the board. Just a reminder, as announced yesterday, for those joining, since nobody really is in person, for those joining in WebEx, that consistent with the board's policy and with implementation of the board's new learning management system, pharmacists and pharmacy technicians attending the meeting today via WebEx will be awarded up to 6 hours of CE. Please review the information on the agenda that's posted on our website and follow the instructions provided to ensure you get the credit. You'll be required to register through the board's learning management system Pharm Ed. Before we convene, I would also like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with the other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. As the agenda details, the board has a lot of business to complete today, including time-sensitive. To ensure the board has sufficient time to complete all of its necessary work, I have advised the meeting moderator to allow 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. We'll begin with public comments for individuals attending in person, followed by public comments by individuals participating via WebEx. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. And before we get started, I would also like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
Good morning. When public comment is open, we will enable the hand raise feature. The hand raise icon will be at the bottom of your WebEx screen if you are logged in on a traditional computer. If you are on a mobile device, the hand raise may be behind the 3-dot other options. And if you are a call-in user, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Each speaker, as mentioned, will have 3 minutes. We will give a 10-second warning when your time is almost up. And to clarify with the board chair, would you prefer to have the hand raise feature on throughout the meeting and we will only accept comments during public comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. And those are the instructions. We will share them on screen as well at the appropriate times.
Thank you, moderator. And I would like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. Trevor Chandler, I believe, is coming. Maybe running a little late.
There he is.
Oh, perfect. He's just walking in. Renee Barker.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Renee. Jeff Hughes.
Public member is present.
Thank you, Jeff. KK Ja.
Licensee member present and nobody above the age of 18 in this room.
Thank you, KK. Claudia Mercado.
Present.
Thank you, Claudia. And Claudia is a public member. And Jay Newell.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jay. Ricardo Sanchez.
Ricardo Sanchez, public member.
Thank you, Ricardo. Satinder Sandhu.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Satinder. Maria Serpa.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria. Nicole Tebow.
Licensee member present, and there is no other person 18 years or older in the room with me at this time.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm here, and Trevor Chandler.
Public member present.
Good morning, Trevor. Again, another almost 100% today attendance. So exciting. A quorum has been established. I truly appreciate everyone's time and commitment to the board and California consumers. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the board. We encourage participation by members of the public throughout our meetings at appropriate times. The board respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they're done so in a professional manner consistent with how the board conducts its business. And before we move to the next agenda item, I would also like to remind board members participating via WebEx to please remain visible on camera throughout the open portion of today's meeting. If you need to temporarily turn off your camera due to challenges with internet connectivity, remember to announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. Alrighty, and the next, the agenda item was placed on the agenda in the event the Office of Administrative Law required action by the board to address any issues that arose through the review of the board's regulation. No comments were received from OAL, Office of Administrative Law, requiring board review. As such, we will proceed to the agenda item 11. Agenda item 11. Discussion and possible action related to proposed amendment to California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1713, related to automated patient delivery systems, or known as APDS, consultation. As included in the meeting materials, no comments were received in response to the board's 45-day comment period. The proposed changes align with statutory requirements and remove possible confusion regarding the technology requirements when providing patient consultation for prescriptions dispensed via an automated patient delivery system, APDS. As Claudia, you will learn there are a lot of alphabets and acronyms in pharmacy world. So we'll just go along and try to make sure that we explain all those as we move forward. Given no comments were received, I agree with the proposed adoption language included in the meeting materials. As I open up for discussion, I would also entertain a motion to adopt the proposed regulation text as recommended by staff members. Just nobody wants to talk first, I understand, but hello.
Well, since
Go ahead,
there's a lot of acronyms, can you give me a little background, just really briefly, on how we got
Sure.
here?
So I think that simply put, there. So I don't know if I'm the best to explain. Janice Dang probably can correct all the incorrect things that I may say, but ADDS is an automated drug dispensing system. So that encompasses APDS, which is automated patient dispensing system. So these are like, could be a locker at a Costco pharmacy. These could be also considered they call APDS as a counting machine that is inside of a pharmacy. And then there's an AUDS, automated unit dose system. So those are like a Omnicell or Pyxis. These are the devices that are in hospital or in long-term care or at in some other settings where they're allowed, that it's dispensing the unit dose for the administration to the patient. So that's the
Understood.
very broad summary. And so for automated patient dispensed delivery system, I thought it was dispensing, but I guess it's delivery. I've been saying it wrong. Delivery system. These are where you are using these locker kind of a type to dispense to patient in more like a clinic setting where the law allows, or wherever else they're allowed to be in some of the licensed clinics as well. And when patients are receiving, the point of this is so that they get an adequate consultation. And the changes in the law, I believe, a few years ago, require that consultation must be done via not just audio, but via video as well. And our regulation that was in place before that changes in the law only said audio. And what this regulation is doing is just conforming changes. I hope that
Understood.
short summary was
great.
somewhat correct. And please you can't kick me under the table. But so hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're looking to make technical changes to.
In essence,
To
yes.
adapt to the missing language?
Yes.
Got it.
Go ahead, Renee.
So I don't necessarily have a exact correction to it, but I just want, I mean, I agree with the language. I'm just, that in part D3, that last sentence in 3, it's awkward. Like, it doesn't read like, I mean, further, the pharmacy is able to provide an immediate consultation with a pharmacist.
I think, yes. So that was a good point, Renee. And my understanding of that is not for that specific purpose, or is just like emphasizing that a pharmacy must be accessible to get a phone call. Oops. Like at a regular pharmacy, as if I just, like, you call my pharmacy and you want to talk to the pharmacist. that pharmacist is just available. Do you want to add anything to that on?
So I'm not quite sure that I'm picking up totally what you're laying down here, so owning that. But the S has been stricken. It's
Thank you.
very difficult to see the strike through. But the S is, so
These are new
once
glasses.
adopted, it'll just be provide. No, it's very
Okay.
difficult to see it, but there's
Oh,
a
yes, you're
strike through
right.
on the
Okay,
S.
I see it. I see it. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much just sometimes,
Can
when
you
you're
read that
having to.
again? Can you
read
repeat
this.
that language again one more time?
Yeah, so it's, so now Anne has clarified. Thank you. Just wonderful, Anne. Further, the pharmacy is able to provide an immediate consultation with the pharmacist. So, okay, yeah, I just, I don't know if we could.
That's funny that
strike the
S makes that much of a difference, but it does, huh? Yes, good
It's an
point.
awkward sentence,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Do you want to make a motion, Renee?
yes.
Okay,
Um,
look at me soliciting.
Okay, so I move to adopt the proposed regulation at section 1713 as noticed on February 21st, 2025, and authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking. And I further delegate the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file.
Thank you, Renee. Do we have second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Satinder. Any other comments from members? Ready for public comment in Sacramento? Oh, go ahead, KK.
Sorry, I'm a little late in unmuting myself. Just a quick question. The underlined section reads via telecommunications link that has two-way audio and the video, and the pharmacy is able to provide an immediate consultation with the pharmacist via telephone or in person. So really, at minimum, the requirement is a telephone consult from that machine to the pharmacist. In light of that,
No.
no?
KK, so like think of the robot that you're
Mhm.
picking up a medication from.
Yeah,
The requirement is that there must be a video and audio consultation. But
Correct.
the second sentence is talking about if a patient is just calling the pharmacy to talk to someone. It's like an emphasizing that that's not a substitution for the first sentence. So it's this, I totally understand what you're going through in your mind because that's what I thought initially when this was being developed. But from the further clarifying, I'm understanding. So the second sentence is not that it's that time when they're picking up, but that it's an availability. Like you have to have accessible pharmacists to talk to.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And did I explain that correctly? I'm just pleased. I know you've lived this language, so
Council's here as well, but I think the relevant section is if you go to the statute, which we are, conforming to, it's specific where it talks about the first time. And so the amendment is covering that first time.
does that make sense, KK?
We're complying.
Okay. All right. Public comment in Sacramento. We're gonna go to public comment in WebEx.
This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on the motion, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx screen, or if you're on a mobile device, that hand icon might be behind the three-dot other options. And if you are calling in, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Everyone will be given 3 minutes with a 10-second warning. Are there any comments? We do have a request from Stephen Gray. Stephen, I'll send you a request to unmute your microphone. And Stephen, you should have gotten a pop-up with an unmute me option. I'll send one more. And Stephen seems to be having an issue unmuting. So, oh, there you go. We can't hear you yet, but you are. Okay.
Oh, sorry, my internet connection is apparently slow this morning. Maybe it's me.
Okay.
Just a real
We can
quick
hear you.
comment. I just want to comment that for Sung Oh, that the statute does say dispensing system, not delivery system. So the regulation is correct. It is a dispensing system named in the statute. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Dr. Gray.
And I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. And any other member comment before we vote? All right, Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. Renee? Thank you. Jeff?
Yes.
I want to make sure it comes through. Okay. Jeff, thank you. KK?
Yes.
Thank you. Claudia?
Yes.
Thank you. Jay?
Yes.
Thank you. Ricardo?
Yes.
Thank you. Satinder?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Next, agenda item 12, discussion and possible action related to proposed amendment to California Code of Regulation Title 16, Section 1711, related to quality assurance programs, including review of comments received during the second 15-day comment period. As you may recall, during the February 7, 2023 board meeting, the board approved proposed regulation text to amend Section 1711 related to quality assurance programs. Regrettably, the formal rulemaking process did not begin until August 9th of 2024, well over a year after the board approved the proposed regulation text. The meeting materials provide additional background on the regulation timelines. You'll note that the one-year deadline is fast approaching and that staff are recommending that the board withdraw the current rulemaking to allow the board to further discuss the proposed regulation. I'm in support of the staff recommendations. I believe it is appropriate to highlight that at the time the proposed regulations were approved by the board, AB 1286, the board's patient safety measure, had not been enacted. Given the passage of time since the board initially approved the text, coupled with the passage of AB 1286 and the mandatory medication error reporting provisions in that bill, that being implemented very soon, starting effective September 1st, right? September 1st, 2025. I believe it is appropriate to withdraw the rulemaking and refer the matter either back to the Enforcement and Compounding Committee. This will allow members to take a fresh look at proposed changes and confirm if the language is still appropriate. I also think that we could delegate specifically to Maria and KK, because I know you two were very wanting to kind of get your hands on this language. So I'm open to that. And then, Corinne, please correct me if this cannot happen, but can Maria and KK develop the language, then send that to the committee? Because KK is not on the Enforcement and Compounding Committee.
I'm also going to look to Regulations Council, but as far as I'm
Oh,
concerned,
sorry.
I think that
I always forget to,
I
I'm sorry,
think
Jennifer, not trying
fine.
to ignore you. I always forget that it's you, there's like 3 attorneys here. We got a buffet of attorneys. So,
It's okay. So regarding whether or not he can be involved, given that he isn't in the committee, there needs to be some sort of formal committee recognition first and then eventually board action. But if
okay.
But if the board wants to delegate, to initially develop text and then eventually, get it to the committee and then it goes before the board, that works.
So technically KK can be involved in the development of the initial proposal, right? I would
Yes.
imagine. I mean,
Yes.
that seems, okay. So I don't know if Maria, KK, you still feel like you want to get in there for this language to start the process. I am very open to it. I personally would like to look at this less prescriptive QA language. That's just not really about like something to do, but a language that is about how to ensure an entity really look at the error and study to improve process, and to just really fully understanding the system issues and to better improve the quality, looking at the just culture and all of that. So,
I don't mind meeting with KK before the enforcement committee meeting, but I really believe that the enforcement committee will be looking at a more broad approach in its intent instead of the current intent from the original regulation from many years ago, which was individual error related. So I
Mhm.
believe that we will have a robust discussion in the committee talking about medication error processes. And so with that, even if we met with KK, I have a feeling that the language would significantly change at the committee.
Okay.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
about meeting early.
I will be happy to perform whatever duties I'm trusted with. My approach would be to identify and isolate, if possible, systemic error versus individual error or transactional errors, because that would be more pertinent to look into. And I think some of the languages here do attempt to do so, like volume and number of counseling done and stuff like that. So if given the opportunity or responsibility, that will be my approach to look at transactional versus systemic errors and what contributes to what.
Okay. Thank you, KK. Okay, go ahead, Marie.
So I think that, for the committee to just start the discussion, staff usually propose language, and I would suggest that maybe KK and I work with staff to propose the language to go back to the committee.
Does that work? Okay. That sounds good. So we do need a motion, unless members have any other comments. We do need a motion to formally, I think, withdraw.
Was there a motion on those? We don't have one on the screen.
Actually, this one, I think it's just as simple as to propose to withdraw, right? The rulemaking? Well, you can guide us, Yoda.
Thank you. Motion to withdraw the rulemaking and delegate, if you'd like to, the ability for Maria and KK, members Maria and KK to work on the language with board staff before bringing it before the committee.
There you go.
Okay.
And name the
So
committee.
moved by Maria.
So moved.
Okay. Do we have second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Are we all on the same page, everyone? Okay. All right. We're ready for, so Jennifer, you did the one motion to do 2 steps, right? Okay. So in that case, we are ready for public comment in Sacramento. Seeing none, ready for public comment in WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. We've opened up the public comment feature. If you'd like to make a comment, you can look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx screen, or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And call-in users may press *3 to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning, and we ask speakers to speak only once per agenda item. Are there any comments? We do have a request for comment from John Gray. John, I'm going to send your request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning. This is John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Just a couple comments. I think as this gets taken back to committee, I would say we're supportive of President O's suggestion of keeping changes to the regulation kind of high level, not overly prescriptive. I would also flag that we believe that the existing language in the regulation, the board could already leverage existing language in the regulation to take steps to validate that licensees are looking at errors in a holistic manner and not simply evaluating each error as a one-off. For example, 1711D already says each pharmacy shall use the findings of its quality assurance program to develop pharmacy systems and workflow processes designed to prevent medication errors. 1711E says the primary purpose of the quality assurance review shall be to advance error prevention by analyzing individually and collectively investigative and other pertinent data collected in response to a medication error to assess the cause and any contributing factors and system failures. So I think taken together, 1711D and E already require collective review of errors and using those data to develop pharmacy systems and workflows to prevent future errors. So I would encourage you to consider, really what's missing. In our letter, our first comment letter during the 45-day comment period on this regulation dated September 20th, 2024, we did suggest adding a requirement that that these error reviews be conducted in a manner consistent with just culture principles. We had suggested adding that into 1711D. I know President O mentioned just culture just now, and so I think that's another thing you could look at is whether you want to consider making formal reference to just culture in the regulation. I think those were the main things that I wanted to comment on. Thanks very much for the opportunity to provide comments.
Thanks for the comments, Dr. Gray.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, members, any comments before vote?
One more comment, just to include in for staff to review that we would need to look at SB 1875, which was the original legislation that was behind this regulation.
Thank you. Thanks, Maria. Okay, Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. Motion passes. All right, next agenda item 13, Communication and Public Education Committee Report. I will now turn the meeting over to Nicole Tebow, Chairperson of the Communication and Public Education Committee. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President O. On behalf of the Communication and Public Education Committee, I am pleased to provide the board with a summary of the committee's discussion from our June 12th, 2025 meeting. Thank you to my fellow committee members, Jay Newell, Renee Barker, Claudia Mercado, and Ricardo Sanchez. Members, you may remember at our February 6th board meeting, we had a presentation on the challenges patients face at the pharmacy when trying to receive addiction medication such as buprenorphine. Several doctors and healthcare advocates provided cases and explanations on why patients were denied. Some examples included having a legitimate reason for multiple patients using the same address, or why a patient may appear nervous, or an example for why a patient may need to get an early refill. From the pharmacist's point of view, when the patient displays these red flags, they must use their best judgment, and sometimes this leads to denying the patient the medication. The board would like to educate pharmacists on how to handle these situations. Staff has created educational material on buprenorphine that can be sent as a subscriber alert, included in the newsletter and posted on the website. The educational material can be found in attachment number 1. At last week's committee meeting, members reviewed the educational material and offered feedback on the messaging. Members suggested removing the term "four corners," clarifying the content to convey information more directly and include links to relevant guidelines. Members also suggested developing a continuing education course focused on dispensing buprenorphine. Members, do you have any questions or additional comments? Okay, seeing none, we will now open for public comments. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to provide comments? Y'all have to let me know, sorry.
Do not have anyone in Sacramento.
Thank you so much. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on the committee report, you may look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning. Are there any comments on the report? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I'll now bring the discussion back to members. Do you have any additional comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to the next agenda item. Next is the update on the communication and public education activities by staff. The board recently released an issue of the Script newsletter in May, and it can be found on the board website. Also, staff provided outreach through several presentations and trainings. A list of these activities can be found in attachment 2. Lastly, attachment 3 has a list of the news media inquiries. During the committee meeting, staff clarified that while they acknowledge receipt of all media inquiries, they are sometimes unable to provide the specific information requested by the reporter. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, we can move to public comment. Are there any members of the public
This
in
is Claudia.
Sacramento? Oh, yes,
What-
sorry.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to say that we were presented with the list of inquiries, if any of the members are interested. Is that correct? We can see
Yes,
into
that is-
what is being
that is-
asked from the board.
Yes, that's attachment 3.
That's right. So just wanted to, for the public as well. Is that public information? Yes. Okay, great.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we can move to public comment. Are there any public members in Sacramento?
No public comment in Sacramento.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone would like to make a comment on the staff activities, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And call-in users may press *3 to raise your hand. Any comment on the activities conducted? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and I'll now bring the discussion back to members. Do you all have any final thoughts or comments? Okay,
This
seeing
is
none.
Claudia.
Yes, go ahead.
I think during the committee, we also mentioned how we wanted to do invite the DCC to give us an audit of how we're representing the board publicly. Is that a good
Yes.
time to bring it up now?
Yes, thank you.
So I guess my point here is we were just looking at how we are being perceived by the public. When I joined the board, a lot of my peers didn't know the board existed. And I know we're not really talking a lot directly to the public, but just having DCA do an audit of how our presence is doing online, how accessible we're being to the public. And if they could do that for us, come back, give us a report, and then we can collectively take action. I know, for example, we're not listed on LinkedIn. I can't list my position as a board member and things like that, that maybe we can collectively look at to make sure that the public feels that we're doing everything to make it accessible for them to connect with us.
Thank you, Claudia. Any other member comments? No? Okay, seeing none. That completes the report for the Communication and Public Education Committee. Back to you, President O.
Thank you, Chair Tebow. Appreciate that. All right, next is agenda item 14, Enforcement and Compounding Committee Report. I will now turn the meeting over to Maria Serpa, Chairperson of the Enforcement and Compounding Committee. Chair Serpa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President O. On behalf of the committee, I'm pleased to provide the board with a summary of the committee's efforts at our June 11th, 2025 committee meeting. Thank you to my fellow members, Vice Chair Renee Barker, Jeff Hughes, Sung Oh, Ricardo Sanchez, and Nicole Tebow. First item is summary of the presentation of the board's inspection program. Members, strategic objective 2.3 of the board's strategic plan calls for completion of routine inspections at all licensed pharmacies at least every 4 years to proactively assess pharmacy operations and educate licensees. On an annual basis, the committee receives presentation providing a summary of information detailing accomplishments towards this objective. As I shared during the committee meeting, I would like to commend the board staff on their significant efforts, I'm going to repeat that, significant efforts to meet the board's strategic goal. The presentation slides are included in attachment 1, and the committee's report of the meeting materials. I highly recommend that board members and members of the public who are interested to review the slide materials, and then also that the webinar WebEx presentation is available online. Committee members requested that next year's inspection presentation data be broken down by license categories. Members also discussed that it may be helpful to add a reference section on the inspection report or a draft fact sheet or even a script article to clarify specific terminology for licensees to define terms such as orders of correction, violations, and written notice. Providing some education to licensees may be helpful to inform licensees to better understand the inspection process, terminology, and outcomes. The committee suggests that this issue be referred to the Committee of Public Education or Communications and Public Education. There you go, Nicole. Members, do you have any questions or comments?
I know it's broken record here, but I just cannot thank enough the inspectors and all the work that they do to get out there and accomplish this goal of inspecting every pharmacy in the 4 years. You know, when we did this strategic plan in 2021, I was just kind of like, that's an audacious goal, unrealistic, and maybe we should, bring it to more realistic, but somehow our staff made magic happen. And so thank you to Anne and Julie and all the inspector staff, all the supervising inspectors for all the hard work to actually accomplish the strategic objective that we set. Very audacious goal. We have 6,000 pharmacies in California. That is, sounds easy, but if you really look into it, what we have to do at the pharmacy, that is an amazing accomplishment. So thank you.
I have a comment. I think, first of all, I want to echo President Do's comments that our inspectors have done an incredible job of, visiting these pharmacies. And most part, they do a very good job of educating licensees on the responsibility and so on. But I do think that there's an opportunity to make a standard what is correction means, all those, so that it gets explained to the licensee every time what their responsibility is. Because once in a while, I see it that the inspector goes in and afterward, the pharmacy may not know what the actions they need to take, with, like for written versus correction and what they need to do. So that if that could be made a standard every time, that'd be great, especially like when the report is not available right away and it needs to be sent later through email in a day later or so on. So it would be very helpful for the licensees to know what their obligation is right away.
Thank you.
This is Renee. I kind of want to echo, first of all, these inspections, because it's huge. And I know from the sterile compounding inspections, when you have a complex area or maybe a lot of pharmacies, I mean, it can take more than one day. So it's not like you can visit multiple pharmacies in a day to do an inspection. So yeah, thank you. That's a lot of work and planning. So thank you for that. And then I think a little bit out of what Satinder just said was that, like, just to kind of specify that it would be like verbal, but also written, because I think in the context of a inspection and here getting a lot of, there's the education portion and there's the kind of, if depending on what they see and want to say, and there's just a lot that's said and it's kind of feels, like it can be a stressful moment. It can be, like you're just not maybe taking it all in. So I think depending on who's there, if it's also like that it's written, like what, just some next steps or point in some direction so that they hear it, but also see it. Because I think that would be important, because I know sometimes there's somebody who was like, if I'm not there, but somebody else is there and they say, oh, they said this, but it's not written. Anyway, so I think that might be a good addition.
I have a question. Are these conversations recorded when the inspections are done, to record what was like? I'm looking at the screen now and it's logging in what I'm saying.
No.
Do we have the ability to do that? Like,
The only part of the disciplinary process. It's when it turns into a disciplinary process and it becomes a legal process and it becomes then those are when you have attorneys and recordings and judges. And
Right.
this is an inspection process. It's kind of like similar to, I don't want to say it's the same thing too, but like a restaurant inspection. Inspectors come in and check the water temperature and that they're checking for a myriad of details in a pharmacy. And then they're oftentimes providing a discourse of, discussion points, education, and then they're left with a written report.
Yes.
And the written report details the findings of what they saw, including like the personnel on site and the time that they were there and all that. And then at the very end, there are action points that are done. The area that we thought that there could be some improvement was, as I stated, that there be a page attached to that report that would be the definition of terms. Because we throw terms out, like what is a violation versus a correction versus a written notice. And the inspectors know that because they do that every day. We know that because we hear it a lot. But to a licensee, if they see the inspector every 4 years, it's a new thing. So the committee suggested that we have an attachment to the report that would be defining that. And then also to include something perhaps in the script or even a fact sheet that we could add to. We have a pamphlet that's on the website that says what to expect during an inspection that could be similar to that added there too, so that the information is a little bit more accessible, because I think that oftentimes when, like someone had said, I think it was Satinder, that when the inspector's in front of you and they're making a suggestion, some people may think that that's an order of correction. And it's more like, think about this, you might want to look at it this way. And it's more of a discussion item. It's not even written on the report.
The biggest confusion is sometimes between the written notice and correction, like where what they mean, are they going to get a citation, or so that comes up quite a bit after the inspection. And you're right, and just like Renee pointed out, that sometimes there's a discussion points that's discussed during the inspection, but they're not on the report. So like they don't, they'll say the inspector wanted to have XYZ done too, but you don't see that on the report. So you're not sure if that's a correction that got left out or it was just a discussion point.
Can I just add, I think sometimes, I think it just could be also a point of clarification, because there is a lot discussed. But if it's not written, it's not, you can't follow up with it, right? If as a report for people who aren't there, all you can work with is the report. Somebody may have said they talked about something, but if it's not written, it's hard to follow up. But I do think that, also in this section is discussion points. And I, again, like to define that, but I think the written discussion points, the way that we understand it to take is that, like, those are suggested to make improvements and will probably be looked at first next year. That's been my experience. So first year company, but.
So if I can just say a few things, if that's okay. One is we are in the process of transitioning to a new inspection program for releasing information and doing things. So just as technology improves, we will be able to improve as well. But I also just wanted to highlight that, one of the things that the board has really been focused on is trying to norm and be consistent organizationally. And so with that, we're not always issuing items at the time of the inspection because we want to norm it organizationally, right? Not at the board level, but within the staff, right? So I just wanted to throw that out as a reminder that, some of this information may be released following the inspection after that norming has really occurred. But, inspectors remain available. They always include their contact information on the inspection report and are always available to have supplemental conversations. If there's ever questions on something, that's why they've provided their contact information, is to continue that dialogue where it's necessary. So I just wanted to kind of lay some of that out. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. They do leave their card for them to call or ask any questions. So they're very good about clarifying what they wanted. So that's a good avenue. I'm just suggesting additional tasks. That's all.
Great. Any other comments from board members? As we open up for public comment, just a reminder to please refrain from making any comments on specific individual citations or investigations to avoid any potential ex parte communications. We'll begin with public comment in Sacramento. Any comment here? Seeing none, Moderator Ann, we're ready for public comment via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone is interested in making a comment on the inspection portion of the report, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of the WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device, and call-in users can press *3. Are there any comments? We do have a request for comment from Stephen Gray. Stephen, I'm going to send you a request to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning. And you're unmuted.
Thank you very much. I strongly support all of the discussion that was given by the board members to make the inspections more realistic and more actionable, and really would improve the relationship also, I think, between the staff and the Board of Pharmacy. Some of the public members may not realize that when these inspections occur, it is quite often that the PIC, the pharmacist in charge, is not present. They don't have to be present in the pharmacy every day. They don't have to be present all the hours that the pharmacy is open. And so quite often the inspector is dealing with a staff member. That staff member may in fact be a recent licensee, someone who only a few months ago was a student in pharmacy school. And it can be very stressful for that person as far as what the comments made as to what they remember and how they can pass that on. And so keep that in mind. I teach at one of the pharmacy schools in California, and it's one of the things we ask of the students what they observe when they're out there in the pharmacies with their rotations. What was the relationship and the interaction like when the inspections occurred? And they often comment that it would have been really nice if the PIC could have been there. I do not necessarily recommend that there has to be an appointment or advance notice. I think that unannounced inspections are always the best for regulations purposes. But keep in mind that that person who is there having that discussion with the inspector may have only been a pharmacist for a few months or maybe even just a few years. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you. Members, any final comments before moving on? Next item is summary of presentation on the board citation program. Consistent with strategic objective 2.2 and on an annual basis, the committee also receives a presentation on citations and fine program that include information on common violations. Generally, the information shared during the annual presentation is included in the board's newsletter, providing education to licensees about the most common violations for which citations are issued. The presentation slides are included in attachment 2 of the committee meeting materials. Also, it is available to watch real-time online via WebEx. The committee appreciates that the staff reported the citation data by license type. Members noted that the decrease in overall citations issued in fiscal year 24-25 and noted that staff continues to focus on internal norming of case investigations and inspector education of licensees. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, before we go open to public comment, just a reminder again to refrain from making any comments on specific individual citations or investigations to avoid any potential ex parte communication. Any comments in Sacramento? Seeing none, Moderator Ann, we're ready for comments via WebEx.
Thank you. Again, if anyone would like to make a comment on the citation program, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on the citation program materials? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on, the next item is summary of presentation on quality assurance reports received pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1711F, related to the use of automated drug delivery systems. Members, BPC Section 4427.8 require the board on or before January 1st, 2025 to report to the legislature on the regulation of automated drug delivery systems as a part of the sunset evaluation process. This report was submitted to the legislature in January of 2025. In addition, 16 CCR Section 1711F establishes an ongoing report requirement for any quality assurance records related to the use of an ADDS, which is the automated drug delivery system, as specified in this section. Members, on an annual basis, the committee receives a presentation related to the findings of the QA reports received. The presentation slides are included in attachment 3 to the committee's report and the meeting materials. Members noted that there still may be an issue with underreporting of QA records for ADDSs and confusion amongst the regulated public on the reporting requirements, making it challenging for us to evaluate the error reports provided. Over the next year, the board will continue with its outreach efforts and educational efforts. Members suggested that staff review the ADDS FAQs and offer recommendations for possible updates. In addition, members suggested that staff develop a standardized template for reporting ADDS QA reports under the Section 1711F to aid with compliance and consistency of data elements. Members, do you have any questions or comments? There's a lot of letters there. Seeing none, yes, that's good.
I guess for the error, the template, what will we include in that template that we're recommending? Is there any changes based on what we saw?
So if, in looking at the report, there are data elements that we collect, and the reports that have come to us are missing data elements. And so oftentimes it'll say not applicable or not reported. So you're not able to make a judgment on what was the actual cause of the error. So by having a template form with the data elements requested, we're hoping to get more data.
And we're adding human error and technical error? Is that what are we looking for exactly?
So this is technology. So you're looking at specifically what was the, right now we're just collecting the QA. So you're looking at, was it the wrong medication? Was it the medication removed without authority? Was it the wrong dose? Was it the wrong time? So some of the basic elements about medications.
For quality assurance mostly, around
Right.
quality
And so
assurance.
this is I believe it's the third year. It's been only a few years that we've actually looked at ADDS specifically. And right now we have a significant underreporting. So we're still in the process of educating licensees on when they're supposed to report. And so we talked a lot about that in the committee, is some of the opportunities to provide education so that hopefully next year's report will have more data so we can actually evaluate it.
And is this part of the reconciliation that is done on a regular basis,
No.
adding these machines to that? No, it's not.
Inventory reconciliation is about controlled substances.
Got it.
And so-
But they don't do an inventory reconciliation for everything else that's being dispensed as well?
So
apart from
inventory
quality assurance?
inventory reconciliation regarding controlled substances is about controlled substances that are under the authority of the pharmacy, and that includes those that are in an ADDS.
Got it.
So they're included in that.
The pharmacy will do an inventory reconciliation for their own inventory as well? Right, as a business?
Not usually.
Not usually?
So
No? Oh, I see.
the regulations require inventory reconciliation, the formalized report for controlled substances.
Only, okay.
Am I missing something? Okay. And then there's other countings, there's DAA biannual, inventory, there's other things that go on, but when we throw out inventory reconciliation, we don't actually explain that it's the whole term, which is regarding controlled substances.
Got it. And just quick question on controlled substances. Is there an expiration date or is there like a lifespan for these drugs that we're also looking at? Like,
Oh,
is there-
absolutely.
there is,
That's
right?
one of the, yeah, go ahead, Murray.
So I'm just wondering that we're kind of getting off the topic of the agenda item. How far can we go?
Oh, no, well, we can just keep it very
Corinne?
brief. I thought it was relevant for my education, but we can move on.
No, so can you repeat the question then?
No, it was just in terms of like these things that we're looking at for quality assurance. One of the things that came up for quality assurance is, are we keeping track of these drugs expiring?
That's a very big thing of
Okay.
the, like, so, it would be lovely for one of us to drag you to one of our hospital sites or pharmacies to show you, but because if you would like, I don't want to force you, but if you look at the machine, what's cool thing about these machines is when you input it, and they track this like crazy, especially at some hospitals, like everything that goes in, everything is dated, everything is checked monthly to make sure that the expiration dates are right in date. And on top of it, and then the nurses, administered, they're also going to look at that as well. But the computer systems, these are highly sophisticated technical devices that like you track the expiration date, how many is in there. Every time you take the units out
Numbers.
to administer, you have double checking where someone's counting the number that's in there to make sure you're taking the correct amount out. And then if there's any discrepancies, that it flags the system. So,
Okay.
but I'm not expert. Maria and Renee are the experts. So I'm sorry, I'm going to stop
No, but
talking.
it sounds like we have
Yeah.
this new, that we're putting together to make sure we capture some of that missing data as well. So
The template staff is going to be putting together a template to assist in reporting.
to assist, which is
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Chair
Any other,
Serpa,
any other member comment?
I do have a comment. Please don't hate me. So I think as we're looking at 1711, as we talked about earlier, I do want to, I could be in the minority, but I would like us to look at if there is still a value and need in the reporting itself of ads overall, and that I would like us to have a discussion on that topic as we redo or redevelop or update our 1711.
Mhm. So I agree with, that's one of the things that the committee does discuss, because it has been a questions we're probably going to hear about it during public comment. And we made some comment to that in the legislative report also. We could have that be a separate agenda item to talk about specifically, but I think there's opportunity to talk about it as we're reviewing the QA data. Because as we're finding now that there are significant errors that are happening in the ADDSs, but we have no idea on the volume of that because there is significant underreporting. So we're hoping that next year we'll have additional reporting and be able to actually evaluate the numbers and types of errors that are happening with these systems. The other thing that I'm very concerned about is not all systems are the same. There are some locations that actually turn off the safety parameters, and that's another opportunity for errors. If you're not using the technology to the best of its ability, then does that mean that there's going to be more errors? That's something that we could also look at as we evaluate the QA data. Right now, we have minimal data. Yes, Anne.
If I could just say, just like one more thing. So we have like the medication error reporting, right? And that is like one set of data. We have the QA reporting ads. And there is a little bit of overlap, but where the ads are used in a lot of environments, there is no reporting requirement to the KMER.
Right. So that's true.
That somebody probably needs to come up with a Venn diagram with this. Like,
I have a comment. When we're collecting this data, I think we want to be mindful that we're collecting data that's relevant to determining the cause.
Mhm.
And we're not just doing it for the collection purposes and run into a problem that we created when we were collecting every single pill mist for controlled substances. And it just became a nightmarish collection process and we couldn't do anything with it. So to solve the, consumer safety or anything like that. So same thing with the quality assurance, it just be mindful what we're requesting and it's actionable, is it appropriate? So those kind of things, that's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think when we look at the data that's being requested, it's very minimal in the hopes of being able to determine the actual cause of it. But right now, a large number of errors, so we don't have a large number of errors being reported. And of those being reported, you're not able to determine the cause because not all the elements are being provided. So I think that we're not able to really evaluate the data yet. So I think next year, I think we can have a really robust discussion about it. Hopefully we'll have more data to actually talk about what are we getting out of it, and then looking at whether to continue it at that point. We could see, more information, but right now we have really no information except for what was provided in the legislative report, which shows that we have an issue that needs to be further evaluated.
Maria, KK's hand is up, but one more comment is, would you mind, just for the purposes for anybody who's listening? So just to reiterate, what is the requirement for ads is because, I think
So-
that there's a little bit, I think it's a little hard for people to keep up with. So the requirements of licensed ads, unlicensed ads, and the ads just used for counting and pouring purposes. What is the requirement for QA?
So currently, if you look at 1711, I would refer you to reading the details. So I will give you a brief overview, and then Anne or Jennifer can correct me if I'm misstating it. But the general concepts that we talked about during the committee meeting is that licensed ADDSs, which are typically not in hospitals, except maybe an emergency room or a clinic, very few, licensed
Long-term care.
each as long-term care, and there's a whole definition of those that are licensed are required to report to the board within 30 days of an error the QA report. And I'll just leave it at what the QA report is. Those that are unlicensed, the vast majority, so like in my world of acute care, the vast majority of ADDSs are unlicensed, and that is required to turn in a summary report annually with your pharmacy renewal. Those are the two differences. And so those people who have a license, they will know that because they have submitted a license. The requirement is within 30 days, and those that are unlicensed is required to be annually.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
Yes.
Oh, KK, I'm sorry. I'm not meaning to ignore you. I don't see you.
That's okay. Sorry. Just a comment, not a question. Having operated hundreds of these units and still currently operating them in the state, I think if we provide a good framework of questions that this is exactly what we're looking for as a source of an error or a process that contributes to the error, I think in the comments that the pharmacy providers provide in our meetings would be a significantly good source of getting the information on what we are seeking here. I think there are large groups out there who are operating these machines in various care settings, but I think it will be a clear. I think I went through every single slide we had, and I liked what I saw there. If we can provide this kind of a framework that this is what we're looking for, what contributes to the medication error, what kind of people have an access, what is the process to monitor that access, does the access or lack of it contributes to that, time of the day contributes to that. I think if we can pose a few questions, I think in the comments that we receive in these meetings, we'll have a very significant good information coming from the operators. So that's my comment.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Actually, can I add something? I just realized, I think we should try, I'm sorry, Ann. I think we should try to actually reach out to Omnicell and Pyxis at least to see if they could at least let them know that this is a California requirement. Because it's vast majority of these devices are Omnicell, Omnicell, Pyxis, Script Pro. Go ahead, KK.
Sorry, yeah, that's a good point. But Sung, I think we talked about that yesterday, right? These things are geared toward, or maybe not. These things are not geared towards the business intelligence. They are more geared towards that dispensing function or some stuff like that, like a pharmacy dispensing system. And they really don't do a good job in the business analytics or business intelligence side. So if we reach out, as you mentioned, to operators, they will probably either develop or enhance the functionalities that gives more data that can be analyzed for the medication error. Right now, and I deal with that every day, they're great softwares or dispensing systems geared towards making the operation smooth, but they're not necessarily a good one as a data source that can be analyzed very easily. It requires a lot of cleaning before you can even work with that data. So that'll be a good point if that's what we want to approach.
So I would not suggest that we reach out to manufacturers or vendors because there are so many, and also They do provide best practices. They do have information as part of their training and implementation, but it's up to each site whether to flip the switch to turn on each safety parameter. And I think that's where we really need to collect information is to look at what are the errors, and are the errors occurring in places that are bypassing the safety technology that's there. Pharmacy organizations, the associations, and the manufacturers do have best practice models, but and every state is also looking at medication errors in the different processes. You know, like in acute care, the national deeming agencies look specifically at how technology is used. I think that we're still in the early stages of just collecting what are the errors and how often are they happening. And part of the education, I think in the future, may be to reiterate best practices and to have those maybe potentially be communication points as we go out with inspections, is to ask people about their best practices. But right now, we don't have any regulations requiring the use of certain safety parameters. But I think that's probably coming. Oh, sorry, Renee.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple comments. One, just to continue this one. So I would also, I would not recommend necessarily the second with that. I mean, I understand that, KK, but in my experience, because we have had to try to like reach out to some of our systems to ask for requirements for like reporting, like our Ivy Workflow Manager, and because they provide a quality report, but it doesn't have all the elements that we need, which is, again, something that you really have to watch out for. So you can get a quality report, but you also have to make sure that it has all the elements that you need for your state or any other regulations that you need to follow. And so what that ends up being is like a special project for your institution based on what you want. And there's a cost associated. So it can be worth it or not. So there is that. And then I just wanted off what Song had said earlier, and you asked that question like about what's the reporting, and there's this and there's that and there's the Venn diagram. So I think it sort of points to that. I think there's like, I mean, not just you, but like kind of a little confusion maybe, or just not clarity on what reports are due, like because of these, right? It's like embedded within this is then also now ADDS or ADDSs, right? So I do feel like there could be some lack of clarity, because then there's also like what kind of license you have, what do you have, right? I think that with the ADDS regulation still being fairly new, it still is just confusing as to what type of license you might need for it, or license, so I'm not sure where that would go. If just, the script, an FAQ, I have no idea. I'm not sure. I'm just seconding your Venn diagram example.
Yeah.
I see KK.
Yeah, sorry, I spent significant amount of my career in last 12, 13 years with automatic dispensing system. It was funny, actually, when I saw the PowerPoint, almost every machine in the picture I have worked with. And Renee is right. When you go back and ask for data, that becomes a project and that becomes a cost. And that's why I like President Sung's suggestion that if we go back to manufacturing and say, this is the framework with which we work, and this is the data we will routinely be asking for, if they can develop that for at least the California market, that will be really helpful. Another thing I would like to draw attention is that here we are also working in partnership with other entities as well, like nursing staff in the hospital, as well as skilled nursing facilities and prescribers sometimes. And those reports that we generate for the error sometimes are beyond pharmacy's control as well. So I think one thing we may want to monitor is access, and who has the access, and what that access contributes towards the medication error. If nurse has an access, nurse can access the medication with pharmacist's approval, and that somehow gets subverted. Well, pharmacy can report that and do that, but then this whole disciplinary section goes beyond what our pharmacy realm is, because it's not really a pharmacy professional. So a lot more framework probably needs to be created, so we get the data and we get the data in a relevant format. And that's why I'm saying, if we create a broad enough network for all the operators to come to these meetings, then we probably gonna get a good amount of comments from the operators on their ability or inability to generate that data within that framework. I think that's only gonna enhance what boards see as far as how the practice goes with this automation, and also make us that much more sophisticated in gathering the data and using it for the public protection.
Those are all really good points, and I think that we're growing towards that. If you look at the data, specifically for your concern about access, there is a column that's there, unauthorized access. That is very concerning. It's a large number, even though we have underreporting. So I think next year when we have larger numbers, we can really dive down into that, because sometimes that there are different reasons, and not to spend time today about guessing what the reasons are, but I think that that's what the data will allow us, is to dive deeper into those kinds of issues, and then ultimately have discussions about best practices and our individual pharmacy and PICs understanding the best practices and implementing them. Members, any other questions? This is, you can tell I could talk about this all day. I know Renee can talk about it all day too. We lived this, for several decades.
I just had a comment. When the inspectors go in, would it be possible, if we have this framework, to start asking them what we're going to be looking for?
So
No,
there,
no.
the inspectors that look at the ADDSs, can't really speak to the hospital inspectors, but those that are in the other institutions. Janice Dang, who put this report together and made the presentation at the committee, she oversees the inspectors that go and see these locations, and she and they have had very specific conversations at the different sites about how they use the medication dispensing machines, and actually coming up with the parameters of where the errors could potentially occur. There's different settings. And so, like if you're looking at what's happening in correctional facilities, it's different than what's happening in long-term care facilities, which is different than what's happening in hospitals.
Very dynamic.
And so it's something that they've spent the last couple of years really emphasizing. I don't know, Anne, maybe you can talk about that a little bit more, that Janice and her inspectors have spent a lot of time on this, helping us to get to the report the way it is now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Not good enough? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? This is really good. I wouldn't mind having a day scheduled for the ADDSs. Just like we had, some of my other favorite conversations, but we won't talk about those now. KK, you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, unfortunately, it's my favorite topic too, Maria. And just for the benefit of the new member, there are specific requirements for the setup of ADDS. There is a certain kind of a connection needed, certain kind of a locking room is needed, and policy and procedure needs to be provided to the board. And there is a pre-installation inspection by the board inspector happens before we get the license. So there is a very robust process to initiate an ADDS, at least in long-term care settings.
Okay, moving on to public comment.
Just one more thing.
Go ahead, Renee.
And I'm just going to throw this in just because, I also think that the self-assessment form for the ADDS is a super valuable resource.
Yeah, that's a
good
good point.
The information all in one place.
That's a really good point, is that we do have self-assessment self-assessment forms. It sounds like an exam. Self-assessment forms to help licensees for certain license categories, and there is a self-assessment for ADDSs. Renee, anything else? Sung, anything else? KK, anything else? Moving on to public comment.
Just kidding.
Yes. Moving on to public comment with individuals in Sacramento. Moderator Ann, we're ready for public comment in WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a public comment on the issue, you may look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen. If you're on a mobile device, the hand icon might be behind the 3-dot other options. And if you're a calling user, you can press *3 to raise your hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning. I do see a request for comment from John Gray. John, I'll send you a request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning. This is John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. I just wanted to express that we strongly support President O's suggestion to evaluate the continued need for the requirement to report information about ADDS errors to the board. I would first remind the board that if you look at the legislative history of the bill that created Article 25 of the pharmacy law, the reason for the requirement that was ultimately placed into regulation to report these errors came from Section 4427.8, the report to the legislature during the sunset process. That report has been made, and so the underlying reason for the regulation no longer exists. And so, while it might be nice to continue to have these data and write reports and talk about them, from a legislative perspective, the regulation is no longer necessary. Secondly, President O brought up this idea of a Venn diagram of, how often are you getting overlap of reporting of ADDS errors with the new state level medication error reporting requirements. And I would agree that at least that with the reporting to the intermediary ISMP, there may not be a great deal of overlap there, but I would also flag that as you all know, many a large proportion of ADDS devices in use sit in CDPH licensed space, and those ADDS devices are subject to the Department of Public Health's medication error reduction program, and so are receiving oversight via that route as well. Finally, I've heard a lot about underreporting in this meeting and in other meetings. I guess I would just encourage the board, if it has actual empirical data to support the notion that there's underreporting of these events, we would encourage the board to share that, because as it stands, it feels like more of a vibe than a validated fact. So I think those are my comments on this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is the moderator, and I do have one more comment from Andre Peters. Andre, I'll send you a request to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Andre Peters, Director of Pharmacy for Regulatory Quality and Medication Safety at Scripps Health. Wholeheartedly agree with everything that John Gray just said, especially the need for ongoing reporting and of errors, which has long since passed its original intent from a legislative perspective. I also want to point out some of the things that I am worried about with this ongoing reporting. The first one is this regulation 1711 was taken from the statute 4125B, which specifically says that quality assurance is peer review and therefore protected information. And the fact that the board is requiring peer review protected information to be reported is a little bit worrisome. And I feel that it is very heavily taking away from the effectiveness that a peer review process could provide in making improvements and continued improvements. So I think in the greater scheme of things, as we're talking about medication errors, this is a point that would dramatically reduce the effectiveness and actually may cause more errors as a result. Also want to point out that the way that errors are defined in the FAQ, specifically related to the subject, specifically FAQ 6 and 7, it makes it appear that an error that is discovered by a nurse in a hospital, let's say something is in the wrong pocket or something, and it gets corrected before it reaches the patient, it appears if it requires those errors to be reported. However, the error never reached the patient. It was corrected before it reached the patient. So there's a lot of confusion with error reporting and things like this. And I think the time has come. We've had many years to assess the errors that were happening with ADDS, and the time has come to maybe go ahead and stop this so we can focus on other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Please do.
Thank you.
I'd like to address a couple of things that Dr. Peters said, because I understand where he is coming from, in the acute care environment. The definition of medication error is something that I think the committee is going to talk about a little bit more. And it has come up in the past. And so that is something that is on our plan to talk about the definitions and to be more clear. If you look at the ADDS FAQ, it's very specific. And I think there's some opportunities to review the FAQs again and to talk about that issue, specifically the definitions. We did talk about in the committee regarding protected information, and nothing in the QA report is required to have protected information. There's no patient information. So the peer reviewed protected data information, I don't think is an issue with reporting to the board. We talked about that during the committee also. But members, you can tell that this is a very broad subject. Specifically looking at the QA reports. Do you have any other questions before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, thank you. This next item is discussion and consideration of updates to frequently asked questions related to the board's Ask an Inspector program. As a part of the licensee education efforts, the board offers service whereby a board inspector and board staff are available to respond to verbal and written inquiries from board licensees. The board has compiled a list of frequently asked questions that it receives through this program. The board's Ask the Inspector FAQs were originally drafted in 2021 and are proposed to be updated. During the committee meeting, members reviewed the updated FAQs and provided feedback to staff. Attachment 4 is the committee's report in the meeting materials, includes a copy of the updated FAQs. FAQs 1 through 13 are existing FAQs from 2021 that have been updated, and questions 14 through 18 are new FAQs that are proposed to be added. Wrong page. Members spoke in support of the updates to the FAQs, and based on the committee's discussion, staff made further updates to the responses to questions number 1 and number 6 after the meeting. For question number 18, we had a little bit of discussion about potentially developing regulations in this area to address the wearing of identification as interpretive questions with the word name in BPC section 680 were noted. The committee will continue its discussion on number 18 and the term name at a future meeting. You will note that the committee is offering a recommendation to approve the updates to the FAQ. With the committee's recommendation serving as the motion, members, do you have any questions or comments on the FAQs? Seeing no questions or comments, do we have any comments in Sacramento? No one's coming forward. Moderator Ann, we're ready for comments via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If you would like to make a comment on the FAQ update, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx screen or behind the 3 other options if you're on a mobile device, or our calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any requests for comment? We do have a request from Andre Peters. Andre, I'll send your request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to point out and make a request. The FAQ that is speaking about name tags refers to BPC 850. I recall. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. In looking at the pharmacy law book, that statute is not in the pharmacy law book, so I'd like to request that it be added to the law book as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. You had mentioned that during the committee meeting too, and can we direct staff to look at why it's not in the pharmacy law book? And thank you.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Members, any further discussion before we take a vote? Seeing none, I turn the meeting back to you, President O, for the vote.
Thank you, Chair Serpa. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. Just a reminder, we're going to try to take a break probably at 10:30. I was hoping we would be done by the committee report before that, but probably not. So I'll turn it back to you, Chair Serpa, but probably one more item and we'll have to take a break.
Okay, thank you. Discussion and consideration of updates to frequently asked questions related to Assembly Bill 1286. Members, as you may recall, as a part of our discussion on implementation of AB 1286, given the comprehensive nature of the measure, we determined that the development of FAQs was appropriate. FAQs were originally approved during the February 2024 meeting and updated again at the April and November 2024 meetings. Last year, the board approved the Institute for Safe Medication Practices as the entity to receive medication error reports from community pharmacies under BPC 4113.1. Recently, board staff updated the FAQs to include information as well as information about the California medication error, which we're calling CAMER, a new alphabet letter, an acronym, including registration and fee information for licensees. Attachment 5 to the committee's report in the meeting materials includes a copy of the updated FAQs regarding AB 1286. You will note that the committee is offering a recommendation to approve the updates and the committee's recommendation serving as the motion. Members, do you have any questions on these FAQs? I can't see. Oh, I see KK. Seeing none, is there any public comment in Sacramento? Moderator Ann, we're ready for public comment via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone would like to make a comment on this set of FAQs, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Each speaker will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning. And we do have a request for comment from Andre Peters. Andre, I'll send you your request and you'll have 3 minutes.
Well, thank you very much again. Appreciate it. I'd like to ask a question that I asked during the committee, and at the time an answer was not given. And so I'd like to again reiterate the question and ask for an answer if that would be at all possible. And perhaps the answer could be addressed in the FAQs to provide clarity for everybody. We're not sure. There was the current direction is that the pharmacies register with ISMP, the selected vendor, to report medication errors to. And it's an easy decision to know that we have to register our retail pharmacies. The FAQs, there is a question about an outpatient pharmacy dispensing to patients, and that provides clarity. The question that we have is whether a hospital pharmacy needs to also register. It's nowhere spelled out. And in fact, the email sent by the board on April 22nd reads, pursuant to BPC 4113.1, community pharmacy includes any pharmacy that dispenses medication to an outpatient, including both resident PHY, PHE, and non-resident NRP pharmacies. And so that doesn't answer the question whether an HSP license needs to register, and if they do, when would they need? When and how should they consider in registering to report errors? With that said, I do want to point out that most here would know that hospitals already follow a very, very comprehensive medication error reporting program, MIR program under CDPH. And these errors are already being reviewed, any type of error that happens in a hospital. So I'm hoping that we could also maybe give consideration that given that hospitals have this extensive error reporting and reduction programs already, that hospitals may be exempt from this. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention to this.
Thank you. I'll see if there's any other public comment before responding.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for public comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Please do. Thank you.
You're
And I
welcome.
apologize, Dr. Peters, if you felt like you didn't get an answer, but the answer talked about those license types that cover community pharmacies that you listed. HSP is not listed as a community pharmacy. And as I understand it, and correct me if I'm misstating, an HSP pharmacy would not have to register with ISMP. Now, it's understood that there is a limited number of outpatient dispensing, but should that number be exceeded, the hospital is required to get a PHY license also. And in that situation, they would have a PHY. But an HSP is not required to register under ISMP. Anne or Corinne, am I stating anything incorrect?
Can I just ask that? I thought my understanding is if it's HSP who does limited dispensing outpatient to their employees, they would still have to. Is that not correct?
If they do a significant, from what I understand, so not sure if Julie or who would answer that an HSP that does significant number of outpatient prescriptions would have to have a PHY. HSP is a limited number of prescriptions. Doesn't matter who it goes to, it's just a limited number.
So if they do limited outpatient dispensing with HSP licensure, they are not required to register.
They're not
I
a community
report?
pharmacy.
Okay.
And this is Corinne, in case it's helpful for members. I mean, I would point you to the language of the statute, which doesn't talk about license types, but it talks about what is the definition of a community pharmacy for purposes of this statute, and that's 4113.1C, as in cat. And it also has a subsection that talks about outpatient hospital pharmacies in subsection E. And so I would refer everyone to what the statute says.
Thank you. But the point of adding this to the FAQ is a good one. And certainly we could, since we are updating the FAQs periodically, look at making that as an FAQ question for the next iteration.
Maybe that could be clarified in that FAQ.
So we can do that in the next one. But can we move ahead forward with this one, since we were trying to keep them up to date quickly? There was no more public comment, so members, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, President O, I turn the meeting back to you for the vote.
Thank you, Chair Serpa. And Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. I think,
Next item, President O, will be significant discussion, so I agree with
yeah,
your
probably
suggestion.
best that we take a break, if that's okay. So we'll take a break. It's 10:35. It has to be at least 15 minutes. So we'll return at 10:50, 10:50. Hello, hello. Everyone is so deep in talking. Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello. Good morning. Again.
Hi, KK. It is 10:50. Sorry to break y'all up. Everybody's just engaged in such a deep conversation. Sorry to break the party. Okay, so as we're coming back, it's 10:50. The hope is that we'll be done by 1 today. So that's Yadash's hope. So hopefully we won't be getting lunch for our members, planning purposes. Okay, so we got to take a quick roll call. And Trevor?
Public member present.
Thank you, Renee.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Jeff.
Public member present.
Thank you, KK.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Claudia.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jay.
Public member present.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Public member present.
Thank you, Satinder.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Nicole.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, and I'm here. Quorum has been established again, and I'll turn the meeting back to you, Chair Serpa.
Thank you. Our next item is discussion and possible action on proposal to add new section of 1707.51 related to accessible prescription drug labels to Article 2 of Division 17 of Title 16 of the California Code of Regulation. Members, during the March 2025 committee meeting, we discussed various policy questions related to Assembly Bill 1902, the measure that added sections 4076.8 to the BPC. The committee agreed that board regulations in this area should focus on the creation of policies and procedures to define how compliance with the legislation would be achieved. Following the committee discussion and subsequent board discussion during the April 2025 meeting, the board directed staff to develop proposed regulation text for consideration. During the June committee meeting, the members discussed the draft regulatory language developed by staff. Members were in support of the draft language and suggested that drafting FAQs on the topic in the future may be appropriate. Public comment suggested that Section B of the proposed regulation, which requires pharmacy personnel to sign a copy of the policies and procedures, should be removed. After discussion, members of the committee did not reach a consensus on whether to keep or remove Section B. Accordingly, Section B was left in to allow today the full board to discuss this issue. Attachment 6 to the committee report of the meeting materials includes a copy of the draft regulatory language. You will note that the committee recommended initiation of rulemaking based on the draft language provided to the committee. As we open for member comments, a motion would be welcomed and is needed to formally initiate rulemaking. Possible motion language is displayed, will soon be displayed on the slide. See how little it is? Tiny, tiny. And I would suggest that we include the language in the motion that says, consistent with board discussion, as I know and plan to have board discussion on at least Section B. Members, any comments or questions? And I would welcome the motion. Ready Feel comfortable making the motion? If not, I can. No one can read it. It's too small.
Yeah.
So I will read. I move to initiate a rulemaking to add California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1707.51, consistent with board's discussion, authorize the executive officer to further refine the language consistent with the board's discussion, direct board staff to submit the text to the Director of Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for further review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take steps necessary to initiate rulemaking process and set the matter for hearing if requested. If during the 45-day comment period, the board does not receive any comments providing objections or adverse recommendations specifically directed at the proposed action or to the procedures followed by the board in proposing or adopting the action, and no hearing is requested, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking process and adopt the proposed regulation as Section 1707.51. Finally, delegate the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file. Okay, it's time for a break. I'm done.
Second.
Second.
Members, any comments? If you look at the language that's being proposed, it includes Section B, but this is our opportunity to discuss it, or we'll go to public comment.
I think, sorry, Maria, this is Renee. So just to kind of say, I think I was the one or one of whoever else, but of kind of suggesting to omit B as a personnel must read and sign a copy to have this like separate documentation versus, like in A4 says describe the training provided to personnel on best practices related to prescription label accessibility, and possibly add in there just like more define, like describes the training and documentation or training and competency. Since, I mean, typically there's a competency associated with training and those are documented. But if we want to spell that out more than having like a kind of a separate policy sign off, I mean, unless it can be included in like the staff, I don't actually know I know for sterile compounding, the staff have to read the policies and attest to that yearly, but I don't think that's a situation in these other locations, but somebody would have to correct me on that one. So is this is separate, or is there any kind of annual update that they do that would be included and not be an extra step?
So part of the discussion and where we couldn't come to consensus in the committee was that this appears to be above and beyond the norm for standard of practice in these pharmacy locations. But the concern was that staff be aware and offer accessible prescriptions, and it may come up so infrequently that it actually may be a barrier to the public, and that the staff would be unaware of what accessible prescription labels are available. And so the hope was, by including in B, was that every staff person would be aware, should someone come to the counter and says, I need a visually impaired accessible label, that staff person would be able to talk about the options and have a discussion, rather than saying, I've never heard of that, I don't know, and then that would be a barrier to the public.
So I think in looking at that, I would say, I don't know what would be the distinction for personnel to remember their training, if it was the training they weren't remembering or the policy that they signed off. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if they get the training and and it's, you know, I mean, it's documented just so that, because Song had mentioned that the PIC would like to also have it documented that people were trained. So does that help somebody recall more between the training and documentation and policy and procedure sign off?
As a compromise, may I suggest the possibility of like a electronic record keeping as an acceptable means instead of physical signing? God, it's a pin drop.
I think if yeah, if you have the technology, I guess, I mean, either one. So, yeah, so I mean, ours are electronic because of, you know.
But I do
paper.
agree with you, Renee. Like, I think that it is just
it-
hard to really fully, like, it's just another thing too. Yeah, so I understand.
So, and I completely understand wanting staff to know, but I will say in the pharmacy setting and in my experience in a pediatric setting, there are a lot of one-offs, right? This is not the only one-off. They're all important. I mean, this is certainly extremely important, of course. But I'm just trying to also just look at how effective is that really? If you are, as long as you have some kind of training and documentation of it and it's available to the PIC for review. So that would be my suggestion.
So what I'm hearing from you is to adjust 4 to have more language there and get rid of B.
Yes.
And what kind of language would you suggest?
Something like describes the training and competency documentation provided to personnel on best practices related. Is that?
I'm not sure competency is a legal term that would actually get what you want. I mean, that would just be a policy then. You could say pharmacy describes the training process provided and documents the competency of pharmacy staff on. We could work on the wording to do something
Yeah.
like that if
Yeah.
we can't figure something out right now, but we can also listen to public comment
Yeah,
and
that
then
sounds good.
bring the discussion back to us.
Okay.
But I hear your
Sounds good.
suggestion is change 4, drop B. Members, any other questions or comments or suggestions, or do you want to wait for public comment and then come back? Okay.
We have,
Oh, KK, sorry, I didn't see you.
sorry, I had my hand up, but
Sorry.
it's okay. Agree with that. Change 4 and drop B. That would be my thing too. I'm just bringing it from the PIC's perspective as well, that there is one more thing that they have to remember or they can forget, and that just adds more burden to already taxing, PIC role. So that'll be very good if we don't have to have that as one of the mandatory things.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Nicole, I haven't been calling on you. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm good. I think Renee covered it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, are we ready to go to public comment? Okay, is there any public comment in Sacramento? And I see Mark Johnson.
Thank you, Mark Johnston with CVS Health. I did participate, or at least listen into the committee meeting and the discussions that happened last week. I didn't actually participate at that point. It was a different member of the public who brought up Section B as an administrative burden. So what I did was a very quick and informal review of the rules and statutes in California. I found 180 plus times that policies and procedures were used in the rules and statutes. Now, there aren't 180 different requirements, as that referred to one set of policy and procedures over and over again often. But what I found were 3 occurrences where you have to sign. 2 have to do with compounding, and I believe both are in the sterile compounding section. One had to do with AB 1286. So my point would be that this is inconsistent to require signing off on this. Now, I know there were committee members that thought it would be beneficial for the PIC and the company to have such a sign off. And if you strike this, certainly a PIC and a pharmacy could go above and beyond what the requirements are if they felt like they needed that documentation. But I think you should give the flexibility to the business and the PIC to determine if they need a sign off and be consistent with the rest of your rules and statutes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator Ann, we're ready for public comment via WebEx.
Thank you. And if anyone else would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon at the bottom of your WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And our call-in users can press *3. As always, you have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning, and we ask you to speak only once per agenda item. And we do have a hand raised from John Gray. John, I'll send you a request to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. First, just want to thank the committee for kind of following through with the idea of taking a sort of light touch policy and procedure based approach to writing a regulation. I think that's the right approach. Happy that that's what made it on paper. You know, we may have some comments when a rulemaking opens and after we review this with our ADA people, but like on the whole, this looks pretty reasonable. On the question of sub B, I would say I think we agree with the recent discussion by Board Member Barker that somehow consolidating sub B into 4 and using that to indicate a requirement to be able to provide evidence of training of pharmacy personnel rather than signature on a policy and procedure. Also agree that whatever that looks like, certainly we would encourage the board to allow for electronic maintenance of those records. And then I feel like I had some no, I guess that's it. I feel like I had something else I wanted to say, but if I did, it's gone now. So thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
And at this point, let me make sure we have no further requests. Stephen Gray has raised his hand. Stephen, I'll send you a request to unmute.
Thank you very much. This is a very special problem that we have with meeting our requirements under current law with not only the federal law for dealing with people that have restrictions on their ability to see, hear, etc., but with the California law that preceded the Americans with Disability Act. I think that was, long before. But I think one of the things that the regulation doesn't address, or maybe there was not a discussion, is whether the statute's requirement for abiding by the U.S. class standards may be in conflict with the current statutes in California for prescription labels, the patient-centered prescription labels and so forth. And the pharmacies may say, well, how do I satisfy both statutory requirements? And so I would suggest going forward with this, but having a discussion at the committee level and with the help of counsel about how to reconcile those two different standards for prescription labels. I think there is going to be a lot of confusion that may result in a lot of civil actions against pharmacies that they could have avoided if someone would help them understand how to reconcile the differences. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. I know the committee did discuss that and include that in number 3, but that would be a great addition to the FAQs to fully flesh out what the intent of number 3 is.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Please do. Thank you. I see Nicole has her hand up. So I'm bringing the discussion back to the board. Nicole?
Thanks, Maria. I've been struggling with this one the whole time. I don't have a great answer, but just wanted to point out that it's a pretty routine experience for people with disabilities that when something is designed for a person with disabilities, it's very obvious that the person didn't consider what it's actually like to have a disability, that they just met the requirements of a statute. So I don't have like a specific recommendation. I just want to make sure we keep that in mind, that we don't phrase this in such a way, or that when we do our FAQs or something, we actually, and I think 3 kind of gets at this, but that we really make sure people talk to the person with the disability, consider what it's actually like, and that they're not just going through the motions to meet the requirement, or at that point, it's not actually helpful to a person with a disability. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. And just to remind everyone that the motion is to open the rulemaking file. And as you're familiar, regulatory rulemaking file is multiple steps. We'll be seeing this many times in board discussion. So we can suggest some language, but again, we will be having formal comment periods. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, based on what Renee said and some of the public comments, maybe we can expand number 4 and give sort of a, in the training, like what kind of training has to be for the pharmacy personnel. It could include the education on various accessible label formats and technologies could be one thing that the training should include. And maybe also could be training steps to take to avoid adversely affecting the patient medical condition based on the pharmacist's professional judgment. And the third thing could be to how the steps in there to how they can make sure that the future access to medication with accessible labels, they would, going forward, how they would do that. So like it could be all included in that as a part of the education, that sentence, that one sentence could be expanded into the things the education should include. And it will cover the B's and C, both of those.
You bring up a good point, because we require the policy to state all those things, but in 4, it doesn't say that they're actually training on the policy. So I think that we probably should include that the training we include not only the best practices, but on the pharmacy's policies.
Exactly.
And those policies already say that they're going to have those things.
Those
So
things, yeah.
what I hear is we need something that says something about documents and something about policies. And so just throwing out some language, describes and documents the training provided to pharmacy personnel on best practices and pharmacy policies related to prescription label accessibility. That's just a place to start, knowing that we will going through this a lot more, but any comments?
I got a question. And is there a separate set of subject matter experts that we go to when we're talking about creating things that are accessible?
So this comes from a legislative statute that had some detail in it. So this was the attempt of the board to provide some information and context to what the statute provides, and allow each of the pharmacies to develop their patient-specific understanding, their population and their availability processes. Anne, go ahead.
Just also, should it be helpful, the statute references some specific sources for people to consider.
Okay.
So the statute references the best practices established by the United States Access Board and the national standards for culturally and linguistically appropriate services in health and healthcare. So the statute does also provide some direction, should that be helpful information.
It's helpful. I mean, just with regard to what Renee said earlier, there's it definitely seems like a lot of times when things are made quote unquote accessible, they're not actually. And the language is written however it's written. And, there's a huge variety of disabilities that are being addressed in a lot of these things. And it'd be nice to have the population that it serves actually weigh in on it. And I'm assuming that one of these groups that, helps come up with this, whatever it was you just listed, sorry, I can't remember that far back, that they would have, an actual group of individuals who to be served that would have some weigh in on how they would like to receive and be able to digest information. So I don't know if we can have any influence in that or if that already happens and I just don't understand that yet, but that would be great.
So I don't know if Jennifer wants to say anything, but during the legislative process, there probably is a bill analysis that talks about the groups that weighed in. Usually there's pros and cons at the legislative level, but I don't know if that's Corinne or.
There are, but I don't have them available at the moment.
Yeah, so that usually comes at the legislative level when they decide that there's a need, and then it's up to the board to, we decided in our discussions over the last few meetings that we wanted to draw attention to it by having a regulation and provide some context that every pharmacy needs to evaluate that and to assure not only that it was offered to patients, but that it did not delay therapy. I'm sorry, did I hear somebody? I hope that answers it. So board, any other suggestions? Because this is going to be part of the discussion that will be part of the motion that we're going to adjust for. And that would be the part that we go to the rulemaking process, is that 4 would be changed a bit consistent with the discussion of the board, and B would go away. Does everyone feel comfortable with that? And with that, I think we're ready.
Sorry to interrupt. Just a point of clarification, because since I have never worked in a pharmacy setting, I don't know how the policies and procedures are specifically documented. Are training materials normally included with the policies and procedures, just from a practical standpoint of how a pharmacy operates? Are they usually kept separately? Are they usually maintained as part of those policies and procedures? And does that then impact the language that's being discussed?
So during the training process, I can speak to what the training process that I've been a part of developing and have participated in. Part of the training process is you review the policies and procedures. Any other board members want to talk about training?
I would add that oftentimes you start with your policy and then you create your training from the policy so that you cover those points, but they're in more detail in your training, or, create a standard operating procedure and then have that document, and then your competency reflects your training material, something, again, every pharmacy is a little different, but I think that's somewhat of a standard process.
So I think we have an idea of what the board's discussion is. So consistent with the board's direct discussion, 4 will be adjusted and be part of the final documentation that will start the rulemaking file if that's approved by voting with the board. So if you're ready for the vote, or we have more discussion. So President O, I turn the meeting back to you for the vote.
Thank you, everyone, for fruitful discussion here. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder. Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. Motion passes. Back to you.
Thank you, President O. That concludes the report of the Enforcement and Compounding Committee. I turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Chair Serpa, as always. And next agenda item is 15, Legislation and Regulation Committee Report. I will now turn the meeting over to Nicole Tebow, Vice Chair of the Legislation and Regulation Committee. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President O. On behalf of the Legislation and Regulations Committee, I am pleased to provide a report of the committee's meeting on Wednesday, June 11th. Thank you to my fellow committee members, Chair Jesse Crowley, and members Trevor Chandler, Maria Serpa, and KK Jha. Our first agenda item is the discussion and consideration of pending legislation impacting the practice of pharmacy, the board's jurisdiction, or board operations. Members, there are a number of measures included on the agenda today considered by the committee. May 23rd was the last day for fiscal committees to hear and report to the floor for the respective House. The next legislative deadlines include July 18th as the last day for policy committees to meet prior to summer recess. The meeting agenda and materials identify pending measures impacting the practice of pharmacy, the board's jurisdiction or board operation that were identified during the development of the agenda for this meeting. Few measures previously considered by the board did not make it out of committee for this year, including Senate Bill 548. As such, it is not included and will not be discussed. Our first bill is Assembly Bill 50. The first measure for our consideration is Assembly Bill 50. Members, this measure would update provisions related to pharmacist-furnished hormonal contraceptives to explicitly allow pharmacists to furnish over-the-counter contraception without following the standardized procedures required for prescription-only hormonal contraception. Further, the measure would allow for the furnishing of up to a 12-month supply at one time of OTC contraception. The Senate Appropriations Committee will consider this measure on June 23rd. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee is not recommending any changes to the board's current position. Members, I welcome your comments. Okay. Seeing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide public comment?
None at this moment.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment about the board position on Assembly Bill 50, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon. Call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. There are instructions on the screen as well. Any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any additional comments before I proceed? Okay, seeing none. The next measure we will consider is Assembly Bill 309, which would make permanent provisions to allow pharmacists to furnish hypodermic needles and syringes for personal use. The Senate Health Committee considered this measure on June 18th, and I will note that this was the first time our committee considered this measure. There is an update from the 18th meeting. Let me pull that up. So AB 309 passed out of the Senate Health Committee and was referred to the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee as of the 18th. The committee is recommending that the board establish a support position on the measure. The committee received no public comment on the measure. With the committee's recommendations serving as the motion, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, are there any members of the public in the Sacramento location that wish to provide public comment?
Sorry, there are none. Getting distracted, just multitasking.
That's okay, thank you. I can only see you all, so I can't see the out to the group. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone would like to make a comment about Assembly Bill 309, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on the 309? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, Anne.
You're welcome.
I'll now bring the discussion back to members. Do you have any final comments? Okay, seeing none, I turn the meeting back to you, President O, for the vote.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tebow. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Back to you.
Thank you. The next item we will consider is Assembly Bill 447. Members, Assembly Bill 447 would allow a prescriber to dispense an unused portion of a dangerous drug acquired by the hospital pharmacy to an emergency room patient under specified conditions, including dispensing the unused portion of the dangerous drug if required to continue treatment of the patient. Further, as amended, it would exempt from licensure an AUDS that is used to dispense to emergency room patients. Members, you may recall during our last meeting, we did not discuss AB 447 because amendments to the measure were not yet in print. I note that the amendments in the measure appear to provide clarification in some areas, which I believe are helpful. Members, the committee believes the board should continue to watch this measure. The measure is moving quickly, and the Senate Business Professions and Economic Development Committee will consider the measure on June 23rd. Members, I welcome your comments.
Nicole, this is Maria. I just wanted to share my comments that I made at the committee and at our previous board meeting that I have serious concerns about this bill, but I do agree with the watch, but I think we just have to be nimble enough to watch it closely. It concerns me that there's a lack of understanding about the process that currently exists in most hospitals that provide for the unused part of the medication to be appropriately labeled before being dispensed to the patient. And it also requires documentation because the medications belong to the pharmacy's inventory. And so many places have a process to label and document the dispensing of that partially used medication. This bill would bypass the documentation entirely and would provide that the physician or nurse who's acting under the physicians would be responsible for the labeling, which may or may not occur. So I'm concerned about unlabeled medications going out and no documentation of the prescription, and that there would be missing medications potentially from the pharmacy's inventory as medications would be leaving the hospital without the pharmacy being involved. Lastly, I briefly mentioned about the ADU licensure. The only difference that that would be there would be that the emergency room ADU is now required to be licensed because they're sending medications outside of the hospital. Eliminating that licensure may appear to be beneficial for operations, but what that would mean to the board would be that any errors that occurred in that ADU would only be reported to us annually and not within the 30-day period. And that would be something that we would need to discuss also. So those are my concerns. I just would encourage that we watch it closely.
Thank you so much, Maria. Really appreciate the context there. Any other board members have questions or comments? Hearing none, are there any members of the public in the Sacramento location that wish to provide public comment?
Doesn't seem to be any, Nicole.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. And if anyone would like to make a comment on Assembly Bill 447, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on the recommendation to change this to a watch position? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now bringing the discussion back to members. Any final comments before I proceed to the next measure? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Assembly Bill 529. Members, Assembly Bill 529 would extend the board's authority to continue to waive provisions of pharmacy law for up to 120 days following the termination of a declared emergency. The Senate Appropriations Committee will consider this measure on June 23rd. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, do you have any comments? Seeing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide comment?
There's none.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is reserved for public comment on Assembly Bill 529. If you'd like to make a comment, you can click the hand icon to raise your hand, and our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on 529? And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, bringing it back to members, any final comments? All right, I'm going to go on to our next measure, which is Assembly Bill 669. The next measure for our consideration is AB 669, which would ensure 28 days of inpatient, intensive outpatient, or partial hospitalization for substance use disorder treatment for patients. This measure would also prohibit insurers from requiring prior authorization for FDA-approved medications used to treat addiction that are deemed medically necessary by a doctor. The provisions would become effective January 1st, 2027. This measure has been referred to the Committee on Rules for assignment. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes that the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. Okay, seeing none. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide comment?
None at this time.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on Assembly Bill 669, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, and our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments for 669? I do not see any requests. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, bringing it back to members. Any final comments before the next measure? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to Assembly Bill 957. Members, Assembly Bill 957 would prohibit a pharmacy from selling cigarettes or tobacco products. The policy goals of the measure appear consistent with the board's policy statement included in the meeting materials. The measure is moving quickly, and the Senate Business Professions and Economic Development Committee will consider the measure on June 30th. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, do you have any comments? Seeing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide comment?
None at this time.
Thank you. And moderator, we're ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on Assembly Bill 957, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand, and call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on Assembly Bill 957? I do not see any requests. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bringing it back to members, any final comments?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So the bill is saying that they're not going to issue licenses, but what happens to those pharmacies that are currently selling those products?
I believe most pharmacies in the state, or at least the chain pharmacies, have already voluntarily stopped. I don't have a lot of information if there are many pharmacies currently doing it. Do we have that information?
So I think that I probably was not as precise as I should have been in the summary, so I apologize. As I read the bill, council, please confirm, it would apply at the time of renewal. They would not be eligible for renewal of the, I don't know what's called, tobacco license or whatever.
I
Sorry.
see. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, a question for N. Is it also applicable to grocery store pharmacies?
So I'm probably going to punt to council, but here's the Ann response. It applies to, it would prohibit any establishment that has a pharmacy within it from being issued or renewed a license to sell tobacco products. That's the Ann Sodergren version of the bill.
I'm perfectly fine banning tobacco altogether. Forget about retail establishment. But great.
That's correct. Ann's version is correct.
Thank you all.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is Assembly Bill 968. Members, AB 968 would allow a pharmacist to furnish a 12-month supply of an FDA-approved, self-administered, non-hormonal contraceptive at the patient's request. I note that this was the first time the committee considered this measure. This measure is scheduled to be considered during the Senate Business Professions and Economic Development Committee hearing on June 23rd. As amended, the measure would update that authority to authorize pharmacists to furnish prescription-only hormonal and non-hormonal contraceptives in accordance with a standardized protocol. The committee is recommending that the board establish a support position on the measure. However, I note that the committee reviewed the prior version of this measure. Given these recent amendments, I believe it is appropriate for the board to consider the measure in its current form. If we believe the committee's recommendation to establish a support position is still appropriate, following public comment, we can proceed to the vote. If we believe, based on the recent amendments, a support position is no longer appropriate, I believe we will need to vote down the committee's recommendation. Members, do you have any comments? Seeing none, I'll move to public comment for members of Sacramento location.
There are none at this time, Nicole.
Thank you. Sorry you have to do this, Sung. I appreciate it. Moderator,
okay.
Moderator, we're ready for public comment for individuals participating by WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone has any comment on, let's see, we're on Assembly Bill 968. You may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. People on a mobile device may need to go behind the three-dot other options to find that hand icon to raise, and our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on Assembly Bill 968? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, bringing the discussion back to members, do you have any additional comments or thoughts?
I have a quick question. So this bill, I don't see anybody listed for support or opposition. Is it because it's too preliminary?
I'm not sure. Anne, do you know?
I think that this was a recent amendment, and I believe that the prior version of the bill maybe was in a different area of law. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know if someone else has a more articulate way. So it could be that that is it. What I would say from like the staff level is that as you know, the board's provisions in 1503, where it is seeking to kind of streamline some of the provisions in AB 1503. I think that this bill really does kind of highlight the policy need for it. Every time, you know, a new product comes on the line, OTC or whatever, right? We have to evaluate the pharmacy law and then determine what it is. So as I read the bill, and I'm going to look to council for this as well, as I read the bill, we're probably going to have to do a bit of work to implement this, including development of, protocols for the non-hormonal and potentially update our fact sheets as well. So there will be some work. I mean, I think ideally it would be great to kind of get away from this prescriptive provisions of the law, if I can just.
And just a follow-up. So can somebody explain to me the difference between hormonal and non-hormonal and why we're addressing non-hormonal now?
Hormonal is going to be hormone containing, like the most, probably the one you're most familiar with would be like the pill. And a non-hormonal there's a variety of things like condoms are a non-hormonal contraceptive, and any other number of things. There's also IUDs that are both hormonal and non-hormonal, though you're mostly doing those in a provider's office as opposed to in a pharmacy setting. So this is covering the range of different contraceptive options because not everyone wants a hormonal contraceptive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's being addressed now because it just wasn't being addressed before. So,
It's probably now because of the political environment where we're seeing a lot of things happening with contraception at the federal level and in other states,
Okay.
reproductive health in general.
yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on this one? Okay, let me turn it back over to you, President O, for the vote.
So we're still maintaining support position, right, for the committee's recommendation, although it's a little questionable because the language considered was different.
Yes, that's what we're voting for. If people feel like we should not maintain a support, we would need to vote this down because of the changes. If people still feel that even with the amendments, this is appropriate, then we would vote for it.
Okay. Go ahead, Trevor.
I would encourage us to maintain support, looking at the amendments that were made. In many cases, if, and this kind of goes to speak to why there might not be anyone in support or opposed at this time, is that when significant changes are made, most people have to reaffirm support. In this case, the changes that were made were to make it more expansive in light of the political environment we're in. So my anticipation is that all the folks that were previously strongly in support of this will remain strongly in support of this. And it's just a matter of, given the significant amount of changes that were made to it, it just requires additional process on everyone who previously supported to go back, look at it, and reaffirm their support. So I will be voting in support.
This is Renee. I mean, looking at the Assembly for analysis, I'm not sure if I know what like edits are per se, but there is arguments in support, and there is one well-written I don't know if I read the name or not, whatever. It's Essential Access Health anyway. So in support of it, and they had their feedback, and then there's no arguments in opposition. That was from April 7th. So I don't know if that preceded the meeting, probably, or if that has any impact whatsoever. But they did have an argument in support documented.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. Any other comments before vote? Trevor? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Renee?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you. KK?
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, and Nicole.
Yes.
All right, Nicole, thank you, and I vote yes. The motion passes. Back to you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to discuss Assembly Bill 1460. Members, Assembly Bill 1460 would prohibit a prescription drug manufacturer from engaging in discriminatory practices that would impose additional conditions or otherwise interfere with a covered entity's purchase or delivery of a drug subject to federal pricing requirements under specified conditions. The Senate Health Committee will consider this measure on June 25th. I note that during prior discussions, the committee noted concerns were raised about the changes being sought to restrict the 340B drug discount program and the negative impacts to such programs, and how this measure could address some of these issues. Members noted that the 340B federal programs play a vital role in providing services to underserved communities at a reduced cost. The board established a support position on this measure. Committee members believed that the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments, and I'm happy to explain what the 340B drug discount program is if anyone needs that explanation. Okay, I don't see any comments. Are there any members of the public in the Sacramento location that wish to provide public comment?
None at this time, Nicole.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment about Assembly Bill 1460, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on Assembly Bill 1460? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to bring the discussion back to members. Do you all have any final comments before we go to the next measure? The one thing I will add on this is there is the author and others are getting a lot of pressure from the drug manufacturers on this one. So I know that they're pushing for amendments. So we'll just have to watch what happens with that upcoming.
Actually, I have a quick
Yeah.
question. Does this involve I believe I was talking to Ann, the people in between the brokers, I forget what the word is, but
Pharmacy benefits managers?
Yes. How do they come into play here?
It's a little bit indirect.
Okay.
It's really complicated, but basically the manufacturers are required to give certain types of entities discounts if we serve underserved communities. The PBMs, because of these discounts, may not get as high of rebates on their drugs from the drug manufacturers. So there's kind of the expectation that the PBMs might try to recoup some of their money if the drug manufacturers restrict the discounts and then restrict the rebate. So it's kind of, the PBMs are just kind of secondary in this. It's not directly about them. Does that make sense? Sorry. It's kind of
Yes. And when we say discriminatory practices, are we talking like monetary practices that are affecting the cost, or are we talking like racial and other things that might come up based on the area they're servicing?
The discriminatory in that they are putting restrictions on the covered entities that have access to this program that do not exist on other types of pharmacies. So for example, sometimes they're saying you can only have this drug available at one pharmacy, or you have to provide us with your claims level data in order to access this drug at the discounted price. So it is not directly discriminatory to patients, but it ends up being discriminatory towards patients because covered entities are the safety net, and they overly serve people of color and people who are on Medicaid.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Thanks. I could talk about this one all day. So any other questions? All right, moving on to the next one. Assembly Bill 1503. Members, Assembly Bill 1503 is the board's sunset measure. As amended, the measure would extend the board's operations until January 1st, 2030. The measure encompasses several policy issues highlighted by the board in its sunset report. In addition to board-sponsored provisions, the measure includes a provision to require the board to establish and appoint a pharmacy technician advisory committee. In addition, the proposed ratio provisions in the measure exceed those recommended by the board. Specifically, the measure would authorize the pharmacist in charge to establish a ratio of up to 4 pharmacy technicians for each pharmacist. This measure is scheduled to be considered during the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee hearing on June 30th. The board established a support position on this measure. Members, as this measure extends the operations of the board, the committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. All right, seeing none, we can move to comments from members of the public in Sacramento.
There are none at this time, Nicole.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. We are in discussion of Assembly Bill 1503, the Sunset Bill. If you'd like to make a comment, you can raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, and our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hands. We do have a hand up from someone logged in as Sean. Sean, I'm going to send you a request to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Good afternoon, board. First of all, thank you so much for putting this bill together, as well as the staff from the Board of Pharmacy. We really appreciate all the efforts putting this together. Coming from Pharmacy Association, California Pharmacists Association, and we strongly support the Assembly Bill 1503. The bill modernizes outdated pharmacy regulatory model, as well as brings the pharmacists in line with the other healthcare professionals like physicians, nurses, and everyone else who holds the standard of care. This isn't about less regulation. It is smarter regulation that reflects how pharmacy is practiced today. We've seen strong support from pharmacists, health systems, independent chain and groceries, as well as other colleagues in medicine, nursing, and public health. These professionals already operate under the standard of care model and understand the value it brings to the patient care, especially the time that we are living right now with the uncertainty of federal entities' recommendation for vaccines and everything. This bill is also aligned with the direction of the state Medicaid program, Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal recently increased the vaccine administration fee retroactively from $3.79 to $15.95 for standard vaccine administration, and COVID-19 vaccine was also increased to up to $34, and BFC has been increased from $7.65 to $9. Also authorized the pharmacy-based CLIA-waived testing beginning from August 1st. So the state is clearly investing in pharmacies, as well as the AB 1503 helps ensure those investments result in greater patient access and improved care. In addition, CPHA has been actively engaged implementing AB 317, which ensures the payment for pharmacy services. So this goes along with the AB 1503 that we're talking about here. We're pleased and share that some commercial payers already have issued their policies recognizing pharmacists as a provider and reimbursing for clinical services. So there is much progress on the implementation of AB 317 that we would love to share in the future. Regarding AB 1503, we've been working diligently addressing the concerns and raised in opposition, and will continue to those conversations in good faith. Once this bill is signed into the law this session, CPHA looks forward to working closely with the Board of Pharmacy on a smooth implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further raised hands. Would you like me to close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm now going to bring the discussion back to members. Do you have any comments before I proceed to the next measure? Okay, seeing none. We've made it to the Senate bills. So we're on Senate Bill 40. Senate Bill 40 would prohibit a healthcare service plan or health insurer from imposing step therapy as a prerequisite to authorizing coverage of insulin, a cap on the cost for a 30-day supply of insulin. The Assembly Health Committee will consider this measure on June 24th. The committee is recommending that the board establish a support position on the measure. The committee received no public comment on the measure. With the committee's recommendations serving as the motion, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide public comment?
None at this time.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on Senate Bill 40, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our calling users can press *3 to raise their hand. Any comments on Senate Bill 40? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, coming back to members, any comments on SB 40? Okay. If there are
Quick
no
question.
comments, I'll turn it over to, oh, yes, go ahead.
So in the bill, it says the American Diabetes Association says source. They're the authors or they're the or what does it say, source? Is that just for clarification?
Yeah, they're the sponsors.
They're the sponsors, yeah, okay.
Okay, any additional comments? Okay, I will turn it back over to President O for the vote.
Thank you, Nicole. Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes,
Thank you, and I vote yes. Motion passes. Back to you.
thank you. Next, we're gonna review Senate Bill 41. And Claudia, this is the one about the pharmacy benefits managers, about those PBMs, the middlemen.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Members, as amended, Senate Bill 41 would establish the regulation of pharmacy benefits managers, also referred to as PBMs, within the Department of Insurance. This measure has been double referred to the Assembly Health and Judiciary Committees. As the committee materials note, the board has received public comments and complaints from consumers and healthcare providers stemming from actions by PBMs. The measure is similar to Senate Bill 966 from last year that was supported by the board but was vetoed by the governor. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. Are there, seeing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento?
None at this time, Nicole.
Moderator, can we please open up WebEx for comments?
Certainly. We have opened up the public comment feature. If you'd like to comment on Senate Bill 41, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users can press *3 to raise their hand. We do have a request to comment from Sean. And Sean, I'll send you the request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Thank you for letting me comment again. Sean Kim from CPHA. We're pleased to share that SB 41, the PBM reform bill, has successfully passed to the Senate May 28th, and the bill is now moved to the Assembly floor and will be heard at the Health and Judiciary Committee at the first week of July. Importantly, this bill aligns with the governor's public call made in May 2025 to license the PBMs in California through the DMHC, along with the mandatory financial reporting and audits. So SB 41 includes several key provisions, banning the below-cost reimbursement for non-affiliated pharmacies. And the new item that we added this year is that requiring PBMs to pay at least the Medi-Cal dispensing fee standard, which is the NADAC plus the dispensing fee, and prohibiting patient steering to affiliated pharmacies and outlawing the spread pricing practices and mandating the PBMs to be licensed by DOI, but it'll be under DMHC as the governor spoke about it. So through CPHA, we are really proud sponsor for this bill. It's important to emphasize, though, that SB 41 has a strong support across the healthcare ecosystem. It includes physician supports, nurses supports, and PAs, and pharmacists across all practice settings. This broad coalition is why the bill gained momentum. Once SB 41 becomes the law after this session, CPHA looks forward to working closely with the Board of Pharmacy to ensure smooth implementation and protects patients and support the sustainability of pharmacy practice and strengthening the transparency in California's healthcare system. Thank you so much for letting me comment.
Thank you for the comment, Dr. Kim.
And this is the moderator. I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicole,
Okay,
before you go to the next item, I'm
Yeah.
hoping to take a quick 5-minute break and we'll return at 12:05.
Sure. I was just going to ask if anyone has any last comments on this one.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. If not, then
I have a
we'll-
lot of comment on this, but I think it's been said, obviously. So I don't, that's the justification for silence. But
Very fair.
Hmm.
All
All
right,
right.
so I'll turn it back over to you for the break, President.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, we'll take a quick 5-minute break and we'll return at 12:05. 12:05. Hello, hello. Short break. Sorry, 5 minutes. Trying to let y'all go before 1. Trying to sprint away. All right, back to roll call really quick. Trevor.
Public member present.
Thank you, Renee.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Jeff.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jeff. KK. He may not be back. I don't see his screen up yet. So then I'll go to Claudia. I'll go back to KK.
Public member present.
Thank you, Claudia. Jay.
Public member present.
Thank you, Jay. Ricardo. There it is. Ricardo is here. Satinder.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Satinder. Maria.
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria. Nicole.
Licensee member present.
Thank you. And I'm here. KK, are you back? All right. We have a quorum, so we'll just proceed. Nicole, go ahead. If KK comes, I'll keep an eye out for it and I'll ping you when he shows up on the camera.
Sure thing. Next up, we have Senate Bill 306. SB 306 requires a covered healthcare service that has been approved 90% or more of the time in the prior calendar year to be exempt from health plan or health insurer imposed prior authorization for 1 year for in-network contracted providers. I see KK.
KK, are you back officially confirming your
Yes.
return? Thank you.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
Perfect. The measure has been referred to the Assembly Health Committee. I note that this was the first time our committee considered this measure. The committee is recommending that the board establish a support position on the measure. The committee received no public comment. With committee's recommendation serving as the motion, do you have any questions or comments? Hearing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide public comment?
There's none right now. Nicole, sorry.
It's okay, thank you. Moderator, we're ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone would like to discuss or make a comment on Senate Bill 306, you are welcome to raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on a mobile device, it might be behind the 3-dot other options. And if you are a call-in user, you may press *3 to raise your hand. Are there any comments on Senate Bill 306? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll now bring the discussion back to members. Are there any additional comments? All right, hearing none, I'll turn it over to President O for the vote.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, Trevor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Claudia.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes,
Thank you, and I vote yes. Thank you, Nicole. Back to you.
thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 470. Members, Senate Bill 470 was amended and will extend the current flexibilities provided in the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Acts to January 1st, 2030. The previous version of this measure would have made the current flexibilities permanent. The board has relied upon the current flexibilities under the temporary provisions. The measure has been referred to the Committee on Governmental Organization. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. Seeing none, are there members of the public in Sacramento location that wish to provide public comment?
None at this time, Nicole.
Thank you. I will, moderator, we're ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
And this is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment about Senate Bill 470, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our calling users may press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any comments on Senate Bill 470? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, bringing the discussion back to members. Any final comments before I? All right. Hearing none, we're going to move on to Senate Bill 497. Members, Senate Bill 497 would prohibit release of medical information related to a person seeking or obtaining gender-affirming healthcare or gender-affirming mental health care under specified conditions. This measure has been double referred to the Judiciary and the Public Safety Committees. The Judiciary Committee considered the measure on June 17th, and we haven't updated on this one as well. It was passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee and was referred to the Senate Committee on Public Safety. The board established a support position on this measure. The committee believes the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. Yes.
Trevor has a comment.
Yes, I just want to reiterate the strong support for this, especially given recent Supreme Court decisions that are portending a much tougher fight in the protection of our transgender youth across the country, and the potential for laws in other states potentially providing gender affirming care a crime. I think it's more important than ever that California lead the nation, not just in advancing this care, but protecting it. And so strongly support SB 497 and maintaining our support position.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Anyone else? I'd also like to know, I know we've mostly been talking about this measure, in terms of gender affirming care for the transgender community, but gender affirming care is used by everyone. It is extremely common in healthcare. So I just want to, providing estrogen to a postmenopausal woman is gender affirming care. Providing testosterone to a cisgender man is gender affirming care. So just want everyone to note that I don't want people to think that this doesn't apply to you or doesn't apply to most people if you are not personally trans. This applies to a very broad range of healthcare. Are there any other member comments before I go to public comment? Okay, don't see any. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide public comment?
There are none at this time.
Thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to comment on Senate Bill 497, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on Senate Bill 497? I do not see any requests. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now bringing it back to members, any additional comments? Not hearing any. I'm going to move on to the next measure, which is Senate Bill 641. Members, Senate Bill 641 would authorize the boards within DCA to waive the application of certain provisions of board licensure requirements for licensees and applicants impacted by a declared federal, state, or local emergency, or whose home or business is located in a declared disaster area. including certain examination, fee, and continuing education requirements. Additionally, it would require all applicants and licensees to provide the board with an email address. I note that should this measure be enacted, the board will be required to pursue a regulation change related to maintaining an email address with the board. Additionally, I note that the board would anticipate a decline in revenue. As the measure was not included on the agenda for committee meeting, it was not reviewed by the committee. The Assembly Business and Professions Committee will consider this measure on July 8th. The board established a support position on this measure. I believe the board's current support position remains appropriate. Members, I welcome your comments. Hearing none, are there any members of the public in Sacramento that wish to provide public comment?
None at this time.
Thank you. Moderator, we're ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. If anyone would like to make a comment on the Senate Bill 641, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on Senate Bill 641? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now bringing it back to members. Are there any additional comments? All right, we made it through legislation. Good job, everyone. Now we're on to the regulation portion. Members, all items included in the regulations portion of the report are for information only. As detailed in the meeting materials and associated attachments, the board has several regulations in various states of promulgation. I do not intend to review each as the information is contained in the public materials. The board has one regulation that was approved by the Office of Administrative Law, Digital Signatures. In addition, one regulation is undergoing final review by the Department of Consumer Affairs, 2 regulations undergoing pre-notice review, and staff are preparing regulation documents for the ADDS self-assessment rulemaking package and revising the rulemaking package for the board's outsourcing facility proposal. Members, do you have any questions or comments on the regulations? Hearing none. Oh, sorry, I just closed out. Can we move to public comment in Sacramento?
None at this time, Nicole.
Great, thank you. Can we move to WebEx comments?
Certainly. If there is anyone who would like to make a comment on any of the regulatory materials, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And call-in users may press *3 to raise their hand. Are there any comments on the regulatory materials? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment period?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I will now bring the discussion back to members. Members, any additional comments before I turn the meeting back over? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, President O. Back to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for going over 2 committee reports today and going over all the legislations. I really appreciate you, Nicole, and appreciate all the committee members, as always. Next agenda item is 16, Licensing Committee Report. As the chair of the Licensing Committee, I'm pleased to provide a report from the committee's meeting last week. Thank you to my fellow committee members, Trevor Chandler, Renee Barker, Jesse Crowley, Claudia Mercado, and Satinder Sandhu. As the meeting materials reflect, the committee deferred discussion on several agenda items as we ran out of time. First one that we discussed is discussion and consideration of Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1793.8 related to technicians in hospitals with clinical pharmacy programs, including summary of presentations received. The meeting materials detail out the relevant laws and provide some background to establish some foundational knowledge. Specifically during the meeting, members received 4 fantastic presentations from different hospitals, including Stanford Healthcare, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, UCSD Health, UC San Diego Health, and Kaiser Permanente Enterprise Pharmacy. It was clear from all of the presentation that pharmacy technicians play a critical role in their respective hospitals in supporting pharmacies, pharmacists, and patient care services. The presentations discuss technology used in assisting pharmacy operations and more expansive roles pharmacy technicians are playing in a number of areas, including medication reconciliations and prior authorizations, and many other areas. The committee enjoyed robust conversation, and as a committee, we agree that it is appropriate to evaluate the current legal requirements that authorize pharmacy technician duties in the hospital setting and evaluate for potential changes. The meeting materials provide additional summary information about the committee's discussion and public comment. The committee will continue its discussion and consideration at its October meeting. I am hopeful that as we continue our evaluation, the committee will continue to receive engagement from stakeholders. I also would strongly encourage members to review the presentations available on the live stream recording if you have not had an opportunity to do so. I really do urge you all to see the presentations during the actual committee hearing. I know you all are busy, but it would be really, it's in about 2.5 hours. So if you could do so, that would be great. Members, any comments? Trevor?
I'll just say as a public member, I thought the presentations were fantastic. I encourage everyone to look at them. They were very informative and just reinforced just how important pharmacy technicians are to the state of California. So just from the public member perspective, I got a lot out of it.
Thank you, Trevor. Any other comments?
I would.
Maria, go ahead.
Thank you. I was able to watch the recording and appreciate the presentations made by leaders in not only the state, but in the nation in pharmacy hospital practice, that they were able to share the dynamic nature of pharmacy technicians in that area. For those of you who are unfamiliar with hospital practice, I think it provided a really great overview of the technician's role, and just try to multiply that in your mind of what the pharmacist role in the hospital environment is. That was not even discussed very much during those presentations. And so there's a lot of things happening in hospital pharmacies. And so I do appreciate the presentations.
Thank you, Maria. Any other comments? Okay, seeing now we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. We're down to just one person, so gonna assume no comment unless you walk up here. We're ready for public comment in WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. And our calling users can press *3 to raise their hands. We do have a hand raised from Sean. And Sean, I'll send you a request to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Thank you so much for letting me comment again. We really appreciate the presentation by many experts, and we are planning on giving another webinar at CPHA talking about pharmacy technicians' role as it evolves over time. And it'll encompass not just the health system pharmacy technicians, but also community-based pharmacy technicians, talking about community health workers' roles and responsibility too. We truly believe that pharmacy technician is the key to provide the clinical services by pharmacists in whichever the settings that they belong to. So we're continuously engaged and invest in pharmacy technicians workforce development. So thank you again for the informative presentations.
Thank you for the comments, Dr. Kim.
Absolutely. And then our next request for comment is from Stephen Gray. Stephen, I'll send you a request to unmute, and you will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Thank you again for the opportunity to comment. I think it's very important, especially for the public members of the Board of Pharmacy, and especially new public members and others, to be reminded that the regulation of pharmacy technicians in California is quite different from the regulation of support personnel in pharmacy and outside of pharmacies across the country. The pharmacy technician roles and responsibilities and authorities are very closely and limited under California law compared in many states. For an example, the pharmacy technicians is a term applied to any non-pharmacist or non-intern pharmacist that happens to be in the pharmacy supporting the work done in the pharmacy. Computer inputters, stock clerks, all these people are not regulated in California. And so it's important to keep the differences in mind when you think of the role and the ratio of pharmacy technicians. So in many states, or in a significant number of states, there is no ratio to pharmacy technicians. And because the way they're defined is quite different than the way they're defined historically under California law. So just wanted to bring that to the attention of some of the non-pharmacist and the new non-pharmacist board members. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, Dr. Gray.
Thank you, and I do not see any other raised hands at this time. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. And I'm looking forward to our continued consideration on this very important issue. And so we will keep you all posted. Next agenda item is discussion and consideration of pharmacist to pharmacy technician ratio in the inpatient setting. Following the presentation and discussion regarding the roles and opportunities for pharmacy technicians in the hospital setting, the committee then transitioned to discuss the potent pharmacist to pharmacy technician ratio in the inpatient setting. As the committee materials highlight, unlike the ratio in the outpatient setting, which is set in the statute, the board establishes the ratio for the inpatient setting, well, maybe mainly inpatient setting, I guess it could also be called institutional setting, via regulation. The committee is again just beginning its evaluation of the ratio in the inpatient setting. During our discussion, members noted that as we continue our assessment, it may be appropriate to consider the variability in the roles pharmacy technicians play in the inpatient setting and draw distinctions in ratio based on these roles. Public comment spoke in support of providing flexibility to hospitals in determining ratio requirements. The committee will continue its discussion during its next meeting. Members, any comments? Maria?
I just wanted to briefly comment that the discussion was extremely valuable, and I think that one of the things that I noted that I hope that was appreciated by people who are not familiar with hospital practice is that the pharmacy's technician role in the hospital practice is in different, I was going to say 2 buckets, but I don't know how many buckets there are. But there are a vast number of pharmacy technicians that are working in roles that do not touch medications. They are doing auditing, they're doing record keeping, they're doing QA, they're doing training, they're doing all sorts of active involvement to assure that the personnel and processes in the hospital environment are safe. They're also working with nurses and other professionals in ensuring that their processes outside the pharmacy are safe also. This is all under the direct supervision of a pharmacist, but the pharmacy technician may not even be touching a medication for their entire shift, if not their entire job description. And so I think that they're looking forward to more discussion about the different groups of pharmacy technicians in hospitals and the potential of understanding the needs of the differing needs of pharmacy ratios, or maybe not needing a pharmacy ratio if someone is more of a supervisory, non-medication touching person. I didn't state that exactly correctly, but I'm just looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Maria. Any other comments? Oh, Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, just to second that, the discussion was, really informative and helpful, but it is really true, just like was pointed out in the comments that, there's technicians we consider who help touch the drugs, move them along, and then we have clerks who are not licensed technicians. So under that kind of way of thinking, so many, I mean, in my own institution, we have a lot of technicians who are responsible for other areas, with drug management, but not providing medications for patients, but, like a computer system, whatever we're using, our ADCs, that type of thing. So, managing reports, compliance technicians in multiple areas. But the considering a ratio just makes it somewhat challenging. I mean, in the hospital setting, there's multiple pharmacists, but it's just not, it's a very different setting. So there's a lot of complex operations going on.
Thanks for the comments, Renee. Any other members? Okay, we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. So we're ready for public comment in WebEx.
This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment, you may look for the hand icon, typically at the bottom of your WebEx screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device, and our call-in users can press *3. Are there any comments? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. All righty. I'm looking forward to our continued consideration of this important issue. And as the committee report reflects, the committee deferred discussion on the remainder of the items included in the agenda. The committee will consider these items at its next meeting. And I note that the licensing statistics are included in the meeting materials as attachment 3. All right, we're ready to move on. We are at almost near the end of our meeting. So next agenda item 17, Organizational Development Committee Report. We'll just quickly go over. The Organizational Development Committee report is for information only, so I will keep this very brief and open up for comment for members and at the public at the end. The meeting materials include updated information on the board's budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025, which began on July 1st, July 1 of 2024. The board's authorized expenditures are anticipated to be about $35.2 million this year. The board's fund condition is expected to increase slightly at the end of the current fiscal year. According to the report provided by the DCA, the board's fund currently has 6.5 months in reserve. As a reminder, under the provisions of Business and Professions Code Section 4400P, the board shall seek to maintain a reserve equal to approximately 1 year's operating expenditures. As the board's new fee structure becomes effective in January 2025, we'll continue to monitor the fund and, if necessary, make adjustments in future years. The board member attendance and mail vote information is included in attachment 2 and 3, and I'm truly grateful for everyone for their time and commitment to protecting California consumers. And then moving to the personnel update, the board currently has 7 vacant staff positions. Recruitments are ongoing, and I believe I receive regular updates on recruitments as part of my weekly meetings with the executive officer and monthly as part of our Organizational Development Committee meetings. And attachment 4 includes the meeting dates for the remainder of the year and the proposed dates for 2026. Just for planning purposes, we will no longer be needing to meet July 7th, 2025. So you could cancel that and take that off of your calendar. And November board meeting is anticipated to be in SoCal, place to be determined. Selfishly hoping it'll be San Diego, but we'll announce when and share as soon as we know. And proposed 2026 meeting dates, as we like to plan things ahead. Dates are posted for your information. Again, this is very preliminary dates, very open to changing as your needs and your schedules and any conflicts. So if you have any conflicts with those dates, please let myself and Julie, Debbie, and the new Julie know. I think it's Ann, Jules, Debbie, and the new Julie know. All right, members, do we have any comments?
For the open positions, how do we advertise open positions?
So we follow the recruitment process. So they're on CalHR internally through the DCA system as well. And then depending on the type of the type of recruitment that we're doing, the type of position, there are times when we also go to outside, like Capital Weekly or those kinds of things where there's a cost associated. We do that only in certain types of classification recruitments, if that makes sense.
That's perfect. Is this normal vacancy number that we are facing?
What I would say is as the organization has grown, we always have different kinds of recruitments. Actually, our numbers are down. We were running about 12 to 15 vacancies, so we've been able to fill some of them.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other member comments? No need to show up here on July 7th. And so we're ready for public comment in person. Okay, nobody's here. Oh, there's Mark, but I don't think he's All right, so we're good. We will go to public comment in WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone would like to make a comment on these reports, you may look for the hand icon and click that to raise your hand. Our calling users can press *3 to raise their hands. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you.
I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, moderator Ann. Thanks, everybody. And next, agenda item 18, Executive Officer Report. This is when Ann is going to compete for who can speak the fastest. So Ann is going to provide a brief report. You don't have to talk so fast. Ann, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, members. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a few quick updates. Included in the report is a brief update on the implementation efforts underway by the Department of Justice to facilitate interstate data sharing with prescription drug monitoring programs. As included in the materials, California is currently sharing data with Oregon. In addition, recently, the Department of Justice reached an agreement with the VA, which allows for one-way search capabilities by the VA. In addition, the board's updated pharmacy law webinar is available on its learning management system. The updated version includes law changes that became effective earlier this year. I also wanted to provide an update on the closures of the Rite Aid pharmacies in California. On May 22nd, the board released a subscriber alert regarding the bankruptcy and encouraging pharmacies to begin taking steps to assist patients. In addition, this alert reminded licensees about the emergency refill provisions in Business and Professions Code 4064. In light of the public comment that was received yesterday, the board will release this alert again. In addition, as I shared in my report, the board, along with DCA, the Medical Board, and Osteopathic Medical Board, we did release a joint statement. As noted in the joint statement and in the meeting materials, the board's sunset bill seeks to remove some overly prescriptive requirements that might mitigate impacts to patients moving forward. The meeting materials also include an update on the implementation activities for the California Medication Error Program. It is anticipated that additional information will be released later today regarding orientation dates for meetings being hosted by the Institute for Safe Medication Practices. This information, once available, will also be included on the board's landing page. Brief information is also provided regarding the outcome of the annual meeting of the National Association of State Boards of Pharmacy. And the last item is a brief update on the joint forum that the board will be hosting along with several of its sister agencies, other healing arts programs. As details are finalized, the information will be available, but the tentative date is December 17th and will be held in Sacramento as well as an online option. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ann. You win the medal again for talking who can talk the fastest. All right, members, do we have any questions or comments for Ann?
I have
Yeah.
a question. I was surprised that I didn't realize that the prescriptions, unless I'm not reading wrong or reading it correctly, prescriptions from the VA system do not go into cures. They do a significant number of outpatient prescriptions, and is that correct that they don't go into cures?
That's yeah.
That is correct, is my understanding.
That's been, yeah.
Wow. I think that's I really appreciate that there's been discussion by DOJ with VA so that they could search for their patients to see if they're getting prescriptions outside of the VA system. I think that's a very good first step. But I'm wondering if sometime in the future, if that's something that the board could discuss, or if that's necessarily beyond our purview, having the pharmacists that are outside of the VA system who happen to provide prescriptions for VA patients do not have a full view of their controlled substance use.
Good point, Maria. I will defer that to our staff and council in future discussions. But we can talk offline and see if we can try to talk about that. But that's been like on the outpatient world, a known little known, not a hole, I don't know, maybe a little hole that we've known for a long time.
Yep.
Okay, any other member comments? No, nothing? Okay, I'm really excited for this joint forum, so I hope all of you can attend. This is a combination of a lot of it. I see that the public has, Mr. Goddard has raised their hand, but thanks for, I'm sure he'll say something about this possibly, so I'm gonna just stop talking and then go to public comment. So go ahead, moderator Ann.
Thank you. We do have a request from Monty Goddard. Monty, I'll send you a request to unmute your microphone and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Start over. I'm in a rush because I know you guys are at the end of the meeting, so I'll talk fast. Good morning, President O, or good afternoon, President O, Enforcement and Compounding Committee Chair Serpa, board members, Executive Officer Sodergren, and staff. My name is Monty Goddard. I'm a 46-year licensed civil engineer in California. I'm a pain patient advocate and a member of the National Campaign to Protect People in Pain. I have repeatedly spoken to both the Board of Pharmacy, its Enforcement and Compounding Committee, and the Medical Board of California about the harm to the controlled substances supply chain wrought by the draconian injunctive relief provisions of the state AG's nationwide opioid settlement with the 3 major distributors of controlled substances. I have 2 brief comments which cover a couple of the items related to the Rite Aid closures, which were mentioned during yesterday's agenda item 2, as well as today's executive officer's report. First, I appreciate the board reprinting the Scripps December 2024 article about the distributor thresholds mandated by the state AG's nationwide opioid settlement. In the most recent May 2025 edition of the script, the board sent out an email alert on May 22nd about the Rite Aid closures. In my opinion, this email would have benefited greatly by referencing this article in the script entitled Wholesaler Thresholds, They Can Be Changed, Communication is Key. The Rite Aid closures will certainly necessitate impacted pharmacies to take the actions this article discusses. Second, I am pleased the Board of Pharmacy is teaming up with other impacted boards, like your recent joint statement on the Rite Aid closures and the potential forum Executive Officer Sodergren just briefed. I am excited about the ongoing behind-the-scenes discussions with the Medical Board and others. This subject was also mentioned by the Medical Board's Executive Director at their May meeting. I have high expectations this collaboration will benefit physicians, pharmacists, and most important to me, reduce patient harm. My thanks to both the Medical Officer's Executive Director and the Board of Pharmacy's Executive Officer. In conclusion, I offer in jest a rhetorical question. How come California's Board of Pharmacy has an executive officer, while the Medical Board has an executive director? Just to induce inadvertent errors in respectful addressing from dummies like me. Seriously, thank you for your time.
10 seconds.
Concern for California residents and patients.
Thanks for the comment.
And we do have one more request for comment from Stephen Gray. Stephen, I will send you a request to unmute and you'll have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning.
Thank you again. I realize you're about to close. Regarding the issue of whether prescriptions that are dispensed by the VA go into cures, I think that's a very serious issue, a very, very serious issue. And those patients are getting prescriptions from non-VA pharmacies. And I would encourage the board to look at whether in any state, what is called generically the PDMP, the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, whether they're being reported to those programs. I think there are some. But also, in addition to the VA, the prescriptions that are filled at military facilities are also not being reported into cures, as far as I know. And civilians, family members and civilians often get those prescriptions, but they also get prescriptions at non-military pharmacies and so forth. So that's another area that needs to be looked into. And I just want to encourage that. And the other thing regarding the Rite Aid closures, Rite Aid, of course, is not the bad guy here, and they're not the only one that's closing. But unfortunately, some of those prescription files are being purchased by pharmacies that are not in the network of the PBM or the health plan payer that the patients have been using. And I would encourage the board in its alerts to alert to the public that they may need to contact their payer, their insurance company, or the PBM, or the other claims manager that is serving them right away to get this straightened out. And I encourage you to talk to the industry, the health plans that manage drug benefits, to see how problematic this is. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the comment, Steve.
And at this time, I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close that public comment feature?
Yes, please. And would like to add a comment.
Sorry, so in my attempt to be streamlined and efficient, probably could have given a little more information. We do have a banner on the top of our website, the homepage. There's a banner that talks, it has a pharmacy locator, and on there we do, we do recommend that individuals using that do check with their health plan to ensure that, it is the pharmacy that they select is a network provider. And then in the fact sheet that we have about pharmacies closing, we also have a call out there as well.
Thank you.
Question.
Go ahead, Claudia.
So when I read the language that they're selling their assets, including prescriptions, are they reporting that they're selling the prescriptions to one licensee, like another pharmacy, or could they also be selling like customer information as part of the prescription?
It's a complicated area of.
So we don't, that's not being reported, I guess that's maybe the.
So what I can say, just in very broad 50,000 or 30,000 foot perspective, is files. When you refer the files of a pharmacy, meaning prescription records of what they received, so that those patients who has been going to a Rite Aid can go to a pharmacy where the files are transferred to. They can go there and then get their prescription refills that are remaining, because the prescriptions usually have a refill remaining, or they're on profile because doctor sent in the prescription, but they may not be fulfilled. It's just on profile, on hold, whatever the lingo that each pharmacies use. So that is what it means by prescription files going to another pharmacy.
So, but we don't know if that file is being shared with multiple pharmacies?
It is to a pharmacy that is buying that file.
But we don't know if they're selling it to multiple pharmacies. We can't do
Well,
that, yeah.
So can I just jump in for just a minute? So there's two things that I'm just going to share just in case it's helpful. So there's a current provision of the law that was recently enacted that requires when a pharmacy is closing that they provide notification both to employers, but to their employees, but also to consumers that get their prescriptions filled there. And then as part of that notification, they have to post something as well that it says where the prescriptions are being transferred
I
to.
see.
So the prescriptions are required to be transferred. So that is one piece. In this specific transaction, and I am not an attorney, so let me just be like super clear about that. A lot of what is happening here is going through the courts, through the bankruptcy courts and through the FTC for reviews and approvals. So I think we know some information about the Rite Aid bankruptcies. I think, that it is continuing to evolve, and we're like learning additional information as things are finalized, but a lot of it is still very fluid. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
No, that is helpful. Just want to make sure there's a level of transparency and oversight in terms of data privacy for the files.
Yeah, I would. Satinder has probably dealt with file transfers and.
So yeah,
lingo.
so short answer is that when they have a buyer, it's the prescription records that get transferred to the new pharmacy, and only that pharmacy has the record. So if the other pharmacy wants to acquire transfer information, they have to call the pharmacy where the record was sold to.
Okay.
So like when the consumer calls a Rite Aid pharmacy, most of the time, they would be diverted to where the record went automatically. So it gets answered so that consumer answers that. Now, the question is, I'm not 100% sure that all the records were all the Rite Aids have a buyers. That information is what Anne, I think, is referring to. It's going through the process and figuring out that portion is a little bit confusing, because from my understanding is that they found buyers for a lot of it, but not every single location has a buyers, or the patient would know where their record's going to be, or I think from what I heard, this could be, I'm not 100% sure, that they may be consolidating it to stores that they have open in those cases. So, but I'm not 100% on that.
KK, I'll let you go and then go ahead. We'll
I
continue.
think, and again, I am not a lawyer either, nor the executive officer, but nowhere near that. But if I remember right, if there is a buyer where a pharmacy can sell their database of the prescriptions, then that's what is happening. If there is no buyer, then the closing pharmacy is required by law to give their data to the nearest pharmacy possible. So I think if the Rite Aid does not have a buyer of the data, then the nearest pharmacy will get it. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just recalling my CPJ.
Thanks, KK.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other member comments before we go for the day? Been a very fruitful meeting. Okay. Just go there one last time. I don't see it though. Oh, Dr. Kim? Okay. We'll allow public comment. Moderator Ann, are you there?
Yes, thank you. I was waiting for clarification. Yes, we are going to hear from public comment from Sean. Sean, I'm going to send you a request to unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I apologize. I meant to raise the hand earlier, but then couldn't get it fast enough. So with the Rite Aid closures, it's been a much more burden to the existing pharmacy as well too, because many of them are absorbing the large volumes of transfer prescriptions if they can. It depends on the capacity of the medications they stocked on their shelves, as well as the ones that if they cannot find on their stocks, they have to identify the ones that who can help with the patients. Due to that, I think it's been very, very challenging. Not to mention that we have already seen the controlled substance quota, and though this has been even worse with the limits that we see at this time. And because of it, there will be more complaints from the consumers who could not get the accessible care right on time, and there will be unavoidable inspections that is required by Board of Pharmacy. So we are really urging the board to continue to work with the stakeholders, including the wholesalers and regulatory agencies, to create a more flexible environment to respond to pharmacy closures and public health disruption that was not ready for the responsive in a sudden patient redistribution. Before I end the comments, I wanted to share this letter from a patient from Kern River Valley who wrote it to one of our member pharmacy. It goes by this. Our little town in Lake Isabella in Kern River Valley used to have 3 pharmacies. The one in Kernville closed down. The Rite Aid is closing in Lake Isabella in a few weeks, which leaves us with a very small pharmacy to tend to tens to thousands of individuals. I'm writing to see if your pharmacy or your company could help our little town by opening another pharmacy in Lake Isabella. We are definitely in need. Many residents are not able to drive to Bakersfield to get medications. Also, the pharmacy runs out of people's medications. Please help our community. Sincerely, Lake Isabella resident. This was a very strong message from our consumers who are in need of help, especially with the Rite Aid closures. If there's anything that we can help association perspective, please help us as a distributor of the information. But we need more guidance for pharmacies that are still remaining. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments, Dr. Kim.
And I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you, Moderator Ann.
You're welcome.
Okay, members, any comments before we go? Nicole, sorry, you're like blocked off from a little weird thingy up here in this, but you're like, okay, there you are. Okay, you're good though, right? Okay, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne, for the executive officer report. And she promised me this would take only like 30 minutes, and we're like at 25 minutes, so that's great. Next is the adjournment. We are done for the day. I'd like to thank members of the public for your participation. And the meeting is adjourned. I really appreciate everyone's time and always dedication for protecting California consumers. Thank you, members.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, KK. Bye, Nicole.
Thank you.